Chapter 25. All right, I'll immediately ask the people from the 36 caves and 72 islands to send a batch of people over. I'll also ask the people from Class 1 Hall to capture a batch of martial artists. Although I can't compare to the two martial uncles, I can still ask the disciples in my sect to provide some people. The moment Fang Qingshan finished speaking, Wu Xingyun, Li Qiushui, and Su Xing'a spoke at the same time. The people from Carefree sect were both righteous and evil. Just look at Miracle Dr. Shui, who was renowned throughout the martial arts world, and Wu Xingyun, who controlled the 36 caves and 72 islands with his life-death talismans. To them, outsiders were not important. As long as it was beneficial to them, forget about capturing people to provide them with qi. They could even kill all the people in the martial arts world. That was why when Fang Qingshan hinted that he wanted to use a batch of martial artists to help Wu Yazi, the three of them did not hesitate at all. As expected, they were all family. When Fang Qingshan saw this scene, he could not help but smile bitterly and shake his head. After all, he had just come here from a society ruled by law during the Age of Chaos. He had yet to experience the cruelty of this world, where only the fittest survived. He still had a trace of kindness in his heart. That was why he politely declined Wu Xingyun and the other two's actions. He did not dare to agree with them. Although he was the one who suggested letting Wu Yazi absorb other people's qi to recover his qi, Fang Qingshan wanted to find those who had committed the most heinous crimes. He was not like Wu Xingyun and the other two, who cast a wide net, as if they wanted to catch all the people in the martial arts world in one go. Wait a minute. Fang Qingshan interrupted the three of them. He looked at the three of them, who were looking at him in confusion. Fang Qingshan deliberated for a moment before he slowly said, I think it's better to have quality than quantity. If we attack the people in the martial arts world without restraint, not only will we make them panic, once we're exposed, we'll become the target of public criticism. At this point, Fang Qingshan deliberately looked at the faces of Wu Xingyun and the others. Sure enough, they revealed a trace of indifference. Obviously, they did not take the people of Jianghu seriously. Even if they were to become enemies with the whole world, they would not care. When Fang Qingshan saw this, he couldn't help but smile bitterly and shake his head. I know that Martial Uncle and Martial Uncle don't care about this, but you must know that you can't make any mistakes when you're treating Master. Once you incur the wrath of the masses and they all attack you, the consequences will be extremely difficult to predict. The few of them looked a little more solemn when they heard this. If they failed to heal Wu Yazi because of this, it would be a huge loss. However, this was not a problem for them. After thinking for a while, Wu Xingyun said, in that case, in order to prevent such a situation from happening, we will set the location of the treatment at Spirit Vulture Palace. We will be able to hold the pass alone, and as long as the heavenly wrath is severed, even birds will not be able to cross. It's fine if it's in Western Xia. I'll mobilize the Class 1 Hall and the army to guard the place. Martial Nephew, you're worrying too much about the people of Jianghu, Li Qiushui said. Fang Qingshan knew that this alone would not be able to convince them, so he did not mind it. He continued, if that's the case, it's not a big deal. The key is that although Master is in danger this time, once he succeeds, he might be able to make a breakthrough. I don't think it's appropriate to rely on a large number of people. Putting aside the fact that the ordinary people of Jianghu are just a drop in the bucket, the more people there are, the more their inner energy will be mixed up, and that's not good for breaking through. Then what do you think we should do? Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui looked at Fang Qingshan with faint smiles. I think we should choose those with high cultivation and bad reputations. Although his thoughts seemed to have been seen through, Fang Qingshan still said, for example, Ding Chuanxiu and the four villains. In addition, I also know that there's a 1,000-year ice silkworm near Nanjing in Liao Kingdom. Although it's very poisonous, once you swallow it, your cultivation will increase greatly, and you'll be able to obtain the coldness of heaven and earth. Hearing this, Li Qiushui, Wu Xingyun, and Wu Yazi's eyes lit up. How could the inner energy cultivated by humans be purer than the spiritual energy cultivated by a 1,000-year ice silkworm? Even the three of them did not dare to boast about it. Moreover, Although the northern underworld divine skill focused on absorbing all rivers into the sea and devouring the heaven and earth, the northern underworld also meant coldness. If he swallowed the ice silkworm and absorbed the coldness of heaven and earth, Wu Yazi would definitely be able to reach a higher level. Okay, in that case, we'll listen to you. Wu Xingyin made the decision and said, I'll go to Dali's Duan family to get the sun finger first, and then come back to cultivate. I think I should be able to cultivate to the first grade before I lose my cultivation. Although the sun finger was good, it was at most a high-grade technique. Wu Xingyin learned a lot from others and had seen quite a number of top-notch techniques. His talent and comprehension were also first-rate. Otherwise, he would not have been valued by unfettered Z and taken in as a disciple. Only the old monk from Shaolin Temple was better than him in terms of his inner energy. When it came to cultivating the sun finger, success would come naturally. There was no problem at all. I'll have the people from Class 1 Hall search for the traces of the villains, elites, and ice silkworm. Then, I'll personally take action and capture them, Li Qiushui quickly said. I'll also have the people from the 36 caves and 72 islands work with you, Wu Xingyin added. If you want to find the whereabouts of the ice silkworm, it's best to use Ding Chunqiu's Divine with King Cauldron as support. You'll get twice the result with half the effort, Fang Qingshan reminded. All right, since we've made things clear, let's take action quickly. There's no time to lose. I'll go to Dali now. As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Xingyin waved his hands and turned into a stream of light that flew down the mountain. I'll also return to Western Xia first and mobilize the people from Class 1 Hall to search for information. Then, I'll take action to capture them. Before Li Qiushui finished speaking, she had already disappeared. Only a white figure could be seen flying in the distance. Martial Uncle, if you need my help, just write to me. Fang Qingshan summoned his inner energy and shouted at Li Qiushui. Got it? In the time it took to breathe, Li Qiushui's voice rang in his ears. Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan could not help but shake his head. Although he had reached the top in a single step, there were still many things for him to learn. Senior brothers, stay and take care of Master. Recently, Jiangnan seems to be rather lively. I'll go and take a look. After saying that, Fang Qingshan bowed to Wu Yazi again. Then he used wave-like subtle steps and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Right now, he was in Deaf-Mute Valley and would not be needed for the time being. He could use this opportunity to see if he could find Geomaji and obtain the Dragon Elephant Prajna art to fulfill a wish. According to the information Su Xinghe received, the Xing Linzi incident was about to happen. Geomaji should have taken Duan Yu to the water distribution pavilion. He could go and see if he could run into him. In the blink of an eye, the lively Deaf-Mute Valley was left with only Sea of Bamboo, Song Tao, and Wu Yazi. They looked at each other and could not help but shake their heads with a bitter smile. Chapter 26. In Jianghu, there was a sudden tension. The two people who had the titles of North Xiaofeng and South Murong suddenly stood against each other. The reason was very simple. Ma Duan, the vice sect leader of Beggar's Sect, had actually died because of his own unique skill, which was to strangle the throat and seize the opponent's throat. The blame was pointed directly at Gusu's Murong clan, which was famous in Jianghu for their shifting stars. After all, most people could only think of returning the favor. In fact, before this, Kobai's Wei of Crouching Bull Sect and Sima Wei of Qingqing Sect had also died by his own unique skill. But Jianghu's affairs were Jianghu's affairs. Although these two sects were also Jianghu's sects, they were far inferior to Gusu's Murong clan. Their deaths were in vain. As the saying goes, a poor man's ambition is short, and a thin horse's hair is long. Without fame and lacking in martial arts, even if there was a suspect, they did not dare to say it. They could only swallow it. But Ma Deyuan was different. He was the vice leader of Beggar's Sect. 10 years ago, Beggar's Sect was just like that. Although they had a lot of people, they were at most the same as Chao's sect. Until a hero, Qiao Feng, appeared in Beggar's Sect. Under his leadership, Beggar's Sect became the #1 sect in the world, comparable to Shaolin. At this time, their vice leader was dead. Naturally, they would not let it go. The name of Gusu's Murong clan was useful to ordinary people, but not to Beggar's Sect. Strength and power were the norm in Jianghu. Fang Qingshan descended from the beating drum mountain and turned to Jiangnan, heading straight for Swallow's Dock. He did not expect that he would arrive at the right time, just in time to witness the scene where Zhu and I were trying to escape. With 100,000 strings of coins on his waist, he went to Yangzhou in March. In Jiangnan in March, apricot flowers lined the path, green willows drooped over the lake, and the warm wind intoxicated the tourists. On Lake Tai, a small boat floated in the hazy water vapor of Lake Tai. A young man of about 15 or 16 years old stood at the bow. Although he was young, he had an elegant demeanor. His eyes revealed the vicissitudes of life from time to time, which added to his charm. Fang Qingshan had naturally been to Lake Tai when he was searching for immortality and seeking the Tao. Now that he was here on a small boat, he could be considered to be revisiting this place. From afar, they saw a small boat coming toward them. It was a man and two women. They looked flustered. In the courtyard of the pavilion behind them, a llama flew up with an angry look on his face. He walked on the water and chased after the small boat. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan immediately knew that the ones in front should be a Zhu, a Bai, and Duan Yu, and the one behind was his target, Jiumaji. Not good. Young Master Duan, quickly use your sword chi to repel the monk. A Zhu and a Bai obviously didn't expect Jiumaji to be able to walk on water and chase after them. Seeing that Jiumaji was about to catch up, they couldn't help but scream again and again. Although Jiumaji's cultivation was profound, he was not Xiao Qianren, who was able to walk on water. It was absolutely impossible for him to walk on water. At this moment, he was just relying on his internal strength and lightness skill to hold his breath. Once this breath was released, he would be weak and could only retreat. Of course, the premise was that Duan Yu could use the 6 Meridians magic sword to repel Jiumaji, so they had a chance of survival. However, Fang Qingshan wasn't optimistic about this. Although Duan Yu was the protagonist, this kind of 6 Meridians magic sword, which often relied on luck and sometimes didn't work, was really a trap. If you always stood by the river, you would inevitably get your shoes wet. Sure enough, this time, Duan Yu's 6 Meridians magic sword didn't work again. Young Master Duan, hurry up. Yes, the monk is about to catch up. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. A hasty man wouldn't eat hot tofu. Although the two kept urging him, Duan Yu seemed to have short-circuited. He wanted to kill Jiumaji, but he couldn't. He couldn't help but feel disappointed and regretful. Why didn't he focus on his cultivation and let his two beautiful sisters get into trouble? Seeing this, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but shake his head. He raised his body and let out a long roar. Although it wasn't a sound wave, it still stopped Jiumaji. If it was someone else, Fang Qingshan wouldn't have been so nosy. He might have even captured Duan Yu in advance to threaten Jiumaji. However, out of the 3 people here, 2 of them were close to him. Duan Yu had cultivated the underworld divine art and the subtle steps, which were not taught to other people in the Xiaoyao sect. Even Ding Chuanxiu didn't get the underworld divine art. Because of this, Ding Chuanxiu held a grudge and plotted against Wu Yizi. Although Wu Yizi didn't have a master, according to seniority, he was in the same sect as Duan Yu. Duan Yu even had to call him senior brother. Of course, in order to save Wu Yizi, Duan Yu sent Wu Xingyun to the Duan family of Dali to ask for the one sun finger. The solitary sun finger was an inherited technique of the Duan clan of Dali, and it was even more important than the 6-pulse divine sword. After all, even though the 6-pulse divine sword was powerful, almost no one was able to learn it after its creator, and it could only be shelved. On the other hand, the one sun finger was the ability to settle down. Since Duan Yu had benefited from Jiumaji, he couldn't just turn his back on him. Moreover, Duan Yu had a history with the Xiaoyao sect. Albai seemed to be the descendant of the Xiaoyao sect. She was the descendant of Kong Guangling, the disciple of Su Xing'e. Faced with such a situation, especially with a junior present, although she might not know, how could Fang Qingshan have the nerve to stand aside and watch? Because of this, Jiumaji relaxed. He had just used up his strength, but he hadn't used it yet. He could only return to the pavilion behind him. At the same time, he looked at the small boat in the distance with a serious expression. Duan Yu and the other two heaved a long sigh of relief. They looked at each other and smiled, then curiously looked at the small boat in the distance. When they saw Fong Qingshan on the small boat, they were all stunned. Judging from the previous roar, although they knew that the person who came was young, he should be a young man like Murong of the south and Xiaofeng of the north. However, when they saw Fong Qingshan's face, Jiumaji felt like he had lived his entire life like a dog, let alone a Zhu and a Bai. Duan Yu was fine. Although the six-pulse magic sword was sharp, it only worked sometimes. However, when he saw Duan Yu, who was younger than Duan Yu, and whose inner strength was stronger than his, Jiumaji started to doubt his life. Where did these monsters come from? Jiumaji couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Young man, where did you come from? Why did you disturb Jiumaji? Looking at Fong Qingshan, who stopped next to a Zhu and the others, Jiumaji had a feeling that he would have to return with his martial arts today. State Preceptor, you speak so confidently. Fong Qingshan chuckled. Young man, you know Jiumaji? Jiumaji heard something from Fong Qingshan's words. Chapter 27. Tubo State Preceptor, Great Wheel Wisdom King, your reputation is well known. Although Fong Qingshan said that he had long heard of him, his expression was still calm. Let's answer the State Preceptor's question first. Fong Qingshan said calmly, I'm from Xiaoyao. As for why I'm disturbing Master's business, firstly, I'm here for Master. Secondly, you're bullying my junior right in front of me. Master, do you think I should intervene? Junior? Jiumaji frowned. The word carefree was enough to give him a headache. Although he was the Great Wheel Wisdom King of the Tantra sect and was famous for his flame blade, his foundation was still the carefree sect's minor phaseless art. Unfortunately, what he obtained was only an incomplete copy of the small phaseless method. Therefore, after he practiced the 72 unique skills of Shaolin Temple, because of the incompatibility, he was possessed by the devil. If he really practiced the complete small phaseless method, he would be like Shuzhu, like Zhang Wuji, imitating all the martial arts in the world without hurting himself. All these years, he had been looking for opportunities to make up for the incomplete minor phaseless art. Although Carefree Sect was not famous, he knew how terrifying it was from the little he knew about it. The Tantra sect was a big force in the western region. The only force that could compete with it was the Heavenly Mountain Vulture Palace, which was a branch of Carefree Sect. Therefore, although he was obsessed with martial arts, he didn't try to make up for the incomplete minor phaseless art. Instead, he looked for the six-pulse godly sword and the 72 ultimate skills because he knew that Carefree Sect was too terrifying. Now, Fong Qingshan, who was only a young man, had such a high cultivation level. This made Jiumaji even more wary of the Xiaoyao sect. Fong Qingshan was from Carefree Sect, and he just said that he bullied his junior. This meant that one of the three people was also from Carefree Sect. Thinking of this, Jiumaji couldn't help but feel a headache. Everyone in the western region knew that Heavenly Mountain Tonglao was the most protective and the most vicious. Just look at how obedient the 36 caves and 72 islands were. Now, he actually bullied someone from Carefree Sect. If Heavenly Mountain Tonglao found out, he would be miserable. Of course, the prerequisite was that he could deal with today. Not only was Jiumaji curious, but Duan Yu and the others were also very curious. They looked at each other, then looked at Fong Qingshan, not knowing who he was talking about. Is that Miss Abai? Although Fong Qingshan could tell at a glance who was a Zhu and who was Abai, he still asked. Little girl Abai greets young master. Abai blinked her eyes, walked out gracefully, and bowed to Fong Qingshan. Your master is Zither Mastery Kong Guangling? Fong Qingshan gently waved his hand and lifted Abai with his internal force and asked with a smile. Young master, why? Abai was stunned when she heard the words. Before she finished speaking, she reacted, could it be that young master and my master are from the same sect? We're from the same sect, but we're not fellow disciples. Fong Qingshan first nodded, then shook his head. Zither Mastery Kong Guangling is my second senior brother's disciple. Ah? Then don't I have to call you Martial Uncle Master? Abai said in a daze. Logically speaking, that's the case. Fong Qingshan's face remained unchanged, but there was a smile in his eyes. When Abai heard the words, her face suddenly collapsed. Fong Qingshan looked younger than her, but she had to call him Martial Uncle Master. Thinking about it made her feel awkward. Aju was more attentive. When she saw the smile in Fong Qingshan's eyes, she said, "Young Master is still young and is in his prime. You don't want to be called Old Bai. Yes, yes, Martial Uncle Master. Can you change the way you address me?" Abai heard the words and nodded again and again, acting coquettishly. "Well, I can't be called old by you. You can call me Young Master from now on." Fong Qingshan's mouth slightly curled up. There were many women in the Sky Dragon, each with their own merits, but the one Fong Qingshan admired the most was Abai. Although Z dared to love and hate, she was too ruthless. Although Wang Yuyin was a fairy sister with a photographic memory and was simply a walking dictionary of martial arts, she was only devoted to Murong Fu. Although Aju was good, she died too early. Only Abai, whose appearance and talent were not the most outstanding, did not have many scenes, but she was loyal and never abandoned Murong Fu. In the end, when Murong Fu went crazy, she accompanied him. "Thank you, young master." When Abai heard this, she almost jumped up, smiling like a flower. "I don't know why young master is looking for this monk." Jiumaji saw that Fong Qingshan and Abai were talking endlessly, so he couldn't help but interrupt. "Master doesn't know?" Fong Qingshan raised his eyebrows. Hearing Fong Qingshan's words, Jiumaji's first reaction was that the people of the Carefree sect knew that he was cultivating the minor phaseless art. Fong Qingshan must have come to retrieve the minor phaseless art, and there was only one ending for him, which was to be crippled at the very least, to die at the very worst. Jiumaji was not a person who would wait for death without a fight. Thinking of this, his eyes flashed fiercely. Although he was afraid of the Carefree sect and Fong Qingshan's cultivation was high, it was simply wishful thinking for him to stretch out his neck and let himself be killed. Even so, the great monk was very shrewd and did not show any abnormalities. He asked calmly, "Oh, you should know?" Although he said this, his body was tense, and he was ready to strike at any time. "Perhaps," Fong Qingshan answered ambiguously and shrugged his shoulders. He went straight to the point and said, "I have two reasons for coming to find you, Master. One is to save your life. The second is that I heard that the Tantric Buddhism has a protective divine art called the Dragon Elephant Prajna art. Master is a famous eminent monk of the Tantric Buddhism. I think you must have seen it before. I want to borrow it. Save my life." Jiumaji couldn't help but scoff at this. Looking at the martial world, Jiumaji didn't say that he was invincible, but there were very few people who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. If he wanted to leave, there were only a few people who could make him stay. Therefore, the saving of his life was obviously a threat from Fong Qingshan. I think my friend's real purpose should be the second one. However, what made Jiumaji feel strange was that the Tantric sect was only famous in the western region, but in the Central Plains, it was completely suppressed by the Shaolin Zen sect. Very few people knew about it. Even the Tantric sect was like this, let alone the Dragon Elephant Prajna art, which was a protective divine art of the Tantric sect, which was unknown. Although it was a protective divine art, it was extremely difficult to practice. Almost no one could practice it above the 10th level. If one could practice it to the 8th or 9th level, he would have reached the advanced level. Even Jiumaji, who was obsessed with martial arts and had a talent for understanding, was defeated and gave up. He didn't know where Fong Qingshan got the news. Chapter 28. However, after thinking about it, Jiumaji felt relieved. Because of the difficulty of cultivating the Dragon Elephant Prajna art, the Tantric sect had to take a different approach and spread the first 3 levels like a basic cultivation method. As a result, this unique skill had become so common that it was used to cast a wide net and catch fish carefully. Unfortunately, even so, the effect was very small. It was not until the end of the Song dynasty that Jinlun Fuang appeared and carried this divine skill forward. Moreover, Tianshan Condor Palace was also in the western region, so it was not surprising that they had heard of the Dragon Elephant Prajna art. Therefore, Jiumaji thought that Fang Qingshan had gotten the news from Tianshan or accidentally obtained the first 3 levels of the cultivation method, so he came to find him. Yes, my real purpose is indeed the dragon-elephant prajna art. In this regard, Fang Qingshan did not mince his words and nodded generously. Just when Jiumaji and the others were shocked by his honesty and shamelessness, he changed the topic and said, "But what you said about saving someone's life is not a lie." In this regard, not only Jiumaji, but also Duan Yu, a Zhu and a Bai did not believe Fang Qingshan's words. Duan Yu and the other 2 subconsciously moved away from Fang Qingshan, as if they did not know him. Then what kind of danger does the monk have that you need to help me with? Jiumaji was so angry that he laughed. He wanted to hear what Fang Qingshan had to say. If I'm not wrong, the martial art that master practices should be the Xiaorao sect's minor formless skill, Fang Qingshan said calmly. As soon as he said this, the whole scene suddenly froze. Jiumaji's eyes were cold as he stared at Fang Qingshan coldly. My friend, this is not a good joke. This monk is from the Tantric sect, so naturally, he practices the Tantric sect's divine skill. At the same time, Duan Yu also started to feel conflicted. Initially, when he heard Fang Qingshan say that he came from the Carefree sect, he didn't feel anything. But now that he heard Fang Qingshan mention the Carefree sect, he finally remembered. Back in the Jade Cave of Mount Wuliang, he had kowtowed 1,000 times, but he had promised the fairy sister that he would kill the disciples of the free and unfettered sect if he cultivated her martial arts. At this moment, this elegant gentleman and beautiful sister Bai are both from the Carefree sect. What should I do? Did he promise the fairy sister to kill them? However, he couldn't do it. Moreover, that young master was so powerful that he wasn't a match for him. Not making a move? If he did that, it would be unfair to his fairy sister. For a moment, Duan Yu couldn't help but feel distressed. Regardless of Duan Yu's thoughts, facing Jiumaji's rebuke, Fang Qingshan was still calm. He calmly said, "Grandmaster, you don't have to be so nervous. The one you met was me, not my martial uncles. Otherwise, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to escape today. However, I don't really care about other people practicing the martial arts of the Carefree sect." Seeing Jiumaji's look of, "I'm not well educated, don't lie to me," Fang Qingshan chuckled. He pointed at Duan Yu and said, "This kid also practices my Carefree sect's secret dark north divine art and water micro-step." In response, Jiumaji looked at Duan Yu in surprise. He didn't expect that this kid, in addition to his family's 6-pulse divine sword, also had 2 of the Carefree sect's secret skills. He was simply a moving treasure house. He regretted letting Duan Yu go, but at the same time, he was also relieved. Although Jiumaji was alert, his hostility had decreased a lot. Fang Qingshan continued, "It's a pity that the minor formless skill you practice is incomplete. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to worry about it today." "What do you mean?" Jiumaji frowned. He had some guesses, but he wasn't sure. He couldn't help but ask. The minor formless skill is one of the top 4 inheritances of the Carefree sect. Its complete version is not weaker than any secret skill in the world. It can simulate all the martial arts in the world. It's even more exquisite than the shifting stars of the Morong family. Fang Qingshan said proudly, "It's a pity that you only practice an incomplete inner skill, and you forcefully practice the 72 ultimate skills of the Shaolin Temple. As a result, the qi in your body is in a mess, and there are faint conflicts. If you can't adjust your qi and return to its original state, I'm afraid the consequences will be unpredictable." Without waiting for Jiumaji to ask, Fang Qingshan explained, "Although the 72 ultimate skills of the Shaolin Temple are powerful, Shaolin Temple's martial arts focus on the unity of meditation and comprehension. Every martial art needs to be coordinated with the Dharma. Otherwise, it's easy for evil energy to accumulate and lead to qi deviation. If you have the complete minor formless skill, you can use the power of the martial arts in the world to forcibly resolve it. Unfortunately, the minor formless skill that you practice is incomplete." Fang Qingshan explained at a moderate speed. The more Jiumaji listened, the more shocked he became. especially when he talked about the chi in his body being in a mess, and there were faint conflicts that could erupt. His body trembled, and he didn't dare to underestimate it anymore. If you don't accumulate a few steps, you can't reach 1,000 miles. If you don't accumulate a small stream, you can't form a river or an ocean. On the other hand, if you can't resolve it while you can control it, once it erupts, even if the Almighty God descends to the world, you won't be able to save it. So, don't you think it's a life-saving move? Young master, you have good eyesight. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please forgive me, but do you have any way to resolve the hidden danger in my body? After listening to Feng Qingshan's words, Jiumaji broke out in a cold sweat. At this moment, when he looked at Feng Qingshan again, in addition to a trace of caution, there was also a trace of respect. The change in Jiumaji's attitude was already within Feng Qingshan's expectations, so he wasn't surprised at all. It's not difficult to resolve the problem in Master's body. Feng Qingshan said lightly, "Young Master, please guide me." Jiumaji was definitely a person who could let go of things. After listening to Feng Qingshan's words, his expression became even more respectful. At the same time, he also promised, as long as young master can help me resolve this hidden danger, I will give you the dragon elephant prajna art with both hands. However, this is the secret skill of my tantric sect, so I hope young master won't spread it. The world was bustling for benefits, and the world was bustling for benefits. Jiumaji naturally knew that there was no free lunch in this world. If he wanted Feng Qingshan to help, he naturally had to pay a price. Fortunately, he had heard that Feng Qingshan was very interested in the dragon elephant prajna art, so he decided to give it to save his life without hesitation. The reason why he was so straightforward was that in life, nothing mattered except death. In the face of life and death, sometimes a secret skill was not that important. Then there was the dragon elephant prajna art. Although it was a tantric sect's protective divine art, the difficulty of cultivating it had already been mentioned. Many talented, intelligent people with great willpower could not even reach the 9th level in their entire lives. Even he himself was intimidated by it, and took the initiative to give it up. Therefore, it was not a big deal to give it to Feng Qingshan. If it were the flame blade, Jiumaji might not be so straightforward. Chapter 29. Good. Seeing how happy Jiumaji was, Feng Qingshan's eyes flashed with a hint of admiration. Those who wanted to achieve great things couldn't be without decisiveness. They had to be willing to give up. There are a few ways to get rid of the problem in your body. Speaking up to this point, Feng Qingshan paused. Seeing Jiumaji's surprised expression, he smiled faintly and said slowly, "The first method is also the simplest. The one who started the trouble must solve it. You only need to learn one of Shaolin's divine skills to get rid of the problem." "What divine skill?" Jiumaji asked impatiently. "I Jingjing," Feng Qingshan said word by word. Jiumaji immediately became speechless. The muscle bone strengthening scripture was the most powerful martial art of Shaolin Temple, which was much more powerful than the 72 ultimate martial arts. Almost no one knew where it was hidden except for the abbot of each generation. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack to find it. It was even possible that it was passed down by word of mouth. Jiumaji was silent for a while, then asked, "Aside from I Jingjing, what other methods are there?" Although Feng Qingshan knew that this time, Shaolin might lose I Jingjing, and it might even fall into Jiumaji's hands, he didn't say anything. Not to mention whether they believed him or not. If it wasn't in his interest, Feng Qingshan wouldn't say anything. Therefore, it was expected that Jiumaji would give up on I Jingjing. Feng Qingshan nodded his head. Without asking why, he continued, "As for the second method, I have already said it before. If Grandmaster cultivates the complete minor phaseless method, there would be no such thing, so..." Feng Qingshan didn't finish, but Jiumaji understood what he meant. It was just that this was also a dead end. Because the minor phaseless technique was incomplete, Jiumaji had thought about fixing it. Although the Carefree sect was not famous, it was actually more terrifying than the Shaolin Temple. Originally, he had obtained this martial art by chance, so how could he dare to openly ask for it? If he made a mistake, he was afraid that people would think that he was coveting the sect's secret art and capture him. This was also the reason why Jiumaji had such a big reaction when he heard Fong Qingshan say that he cultivated the small phaseless method. Eh. At that moment, Jiumaji raised his head and looked at Fong Qingshan. Just as he was about to ask for the next solution, an idea flashed through his mind. Wasn't Fong Qingshan a member of the free and unfettered school? Moreover, he didn't care about outsiders cultivating it. Could he obtain the complete small phaseless method from him? Thinking of this, Jiumaji became excited. Unfortunately, ideas were always beautiful, but reality was always cruel. Looking at Jiumaji's sparkling eyes, Fong Qingshan was stunned at first, but then he suddenly understood. He couldn't help but shake his head and said, "Master, you don't need to look at me. I cultivate the same martial art as young Master Duan, the Dark North Divine Art, not the small phaseless method. This martial art is my martial uncle's secret art. My master didn't teach it to me." Speaking of this, Fong Qingshan couldn't help but be stunned. That's right, the Carefree School's 4 great inheritances, the eternal life art. Other than the Carefree Master, even the 3 Carefree Elders didn't know it. As for the other 3 secret arts, Wu Xingyun, Wu Yazi, and Li Qiushui each had one. Because Wu Yazi was the sect head, he had copies of all the secret arts of the free and unfettered school. Because Li Qiushui and Wu Yazi were husband and wife, they knew about the Dark North Divine Art. It wasn't surprising that they left a secret art in the Jade Cave of Wuyang Mountain. Then the question was, who passed the small phaseless method to Jiumaji? It was impossible for Wu Yazi or Li Qiushui. If it was them, Jiumaji wouldn't have such a big reaction when he mentioned the small phaseless method. Fong Qingshan couldn't help but ask curiously, "Pardon me for asking, but how did Master get the small phaseless method?" When he heard Fong Qingshan say that he didn't know it, Jiumaji seemed to have been poured with a bucket of cold water and instantly calmed down. Fortunately, he had already expected that it wouldn't be easy to obtain the small phaseless method. Therefore, although he had some expectations, he didn't have too much hope. When he heard Fong Qingshan ask about the origin of the small phaseless method, Jiumaji thought for a moment and slowly said, "Speaking of this secret art, I have to start from 20 years ago. At that time, I was a fledgling monk on a pilgrimage to a holy land. On the way, I encountered a heavy rain, and in order to avoid the rain, I mistakenly entered a cave. However, I didn't expect that after the cave, there was another world. It was a paradise. In the valley, there was a bamboo house, and I obtained this martial art from there. Unfortunately, the monkeys in the valley tore it into pieces, and I pieced it together to obtain this incomplete technique." Speaking to this point, Jiumaji couldn't help but gnash his teeth in hatred. Tricks full of tricks. Hearing Jiumaji's story, Fong Qingshan couldn't help but have 3 black lines appear on his forehead. No matter how he heard it, it sounded like the protagonist's path. In the end, when he heard that the secret technique was torn by the monkeys, Fong Qingshan let out a sigh of relief and mourned for Jiumaji for 3 minutes. "Then, Master, do you know who the owner of this secret technique is?" Fong Qingshan asked. "From the layout of the bamboo house, it should be a woman. As for who it is, I don't know." Jiumaji shook his head. Just when Fong Qingshan was disappointed, he added, "Apart from the secret technique, the only place with words in the bamboo house is the door. It says, 'The moon in the sea has tears, and the jade in the Lantian sun gives off smoke.' The moon in the sea has tears, and the jade in the Lantian sun gives off smoke." After muttering to himself, Fong Qingshan suddenly thought of a secret of the Carefree School. Could it be her? The Carefree School didn't have 3 elders, but 4. In addition to Wu Xingyun, Wu Yazi, and Li Qiushui, there was another person called Li Songhai. She was the real fairy sister, and also the key figure in the tragedy of the Carefree School. She was the woman that Wu Yazi couldn't forget. Li Songhai was Li Qiushui's twin sister. The 2 of them looked almost the same, except for a mole. They both became disciples of the Carefree Master at the same time. The 4 of them could be said to be childhood sweethearts. The eldest senior sister was domineering. The second senior brother was gentle. The third senior sister was charming. And the youngest junior sister was pure. There were too few men, and all of them were so outstanding. So Wu Xingyun, Li Qiushui, and Li Songhai all fell in love with Wu Yazi. Although it was normal to have 3 wives and 4 concubines in ancient times, these 3 women were all proud. How could they be willing to share their men with others, even if they were from the same sect, or even if they were biological sisters? So Li Qiushui plotted against Wu Xingyun, causing her to never grow up, and Wu Xingyun slashed Li Qiushui's face for revenge. Seeing the 2 senior sisters fight to this extent for their senior brother, Li Songhai felt that there was no point in staying, so she left without saying goodbye. The valley that Jiumaji saw should be one of Li Songhai's secluded residences, but he didn't know why she left. Chapter 30. Li Songhai and Li Qiushui were twin sisters. Li Qiushui cultivated the little phaseless method, so it was very likely that Li Songhai cultivated the little phaseless method. This also explained the origin of Jiumaji's martial arts. Little friend, you seem to know the origin of the owner of the bamboo building? Jiumaji asked curiously when he saw Fang Qingshan's sudden realization. If I'm not wrong, this senior should also be a disciple of my carefree sect. Fang Qingshan didn't say that it was Li Songhai. After all, Wu Yazi didn't tell him about this. If he said it rashly, it would be a problem whether it was true or not. Oh! Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, Jiumaji's heart couldn't help but raise again. Since there was no problem with the origin of the little phaseless method, then could it be? Looking at Jiumaji's expression, Fang Qingshan immediately knew what he was thinking. He couldn't help but smile and say, if Grandmaster leaves the sect and joins my carefree sect, I can promise to teach you the little phaseless method on behalf of my master. This? Huh? Hearing this, Jiumaji awkwardly laughed and didn't mention it again. Little friend, let's talk about another way. Although Jiumaji only had the flaming blade, the rest of his martial arts were from other sects, and he could even use the dragon elephant prajna art, the tantric sect's protective divine art, to save him. It was better to forget about leaving the sect. In this era, traitors were looked down upon the most. Seeing this scene, the corner of Fang Qingshan's mouth curled up. He no longer mentioned it and continued to talk about the method. Since the body metamorpho scripture is no good and the minor phaseless art is no good, it is impossible for Grandmaster to obtain other peerless martial arts. This method is obviously not suitable. Then, there is only one other way. Looking at the silent Jiumaji, Fang Qingshan smiled and said, that is to disperse your cultivation. Disperse your cultivation. Hearing these 2 words, Jiumaji's expression changed. What did the people of Jianghu value the most? Godly martial arts manuals, godly weapons, fine wine, and beautiful women. Gratifying enmity? None of them. The most important thing was one's own cultivation. What was the point of wanting divine arts, secret manuals, and divine weapons? It was for the sake of raising his cultivation. Only with cultivation could he have good wine and beautiful women. Only then would he be able to settle debts of gratitude and revenge. Otherwise, everything would be for naught. Young friend, you must be joking. Jiumaji stared at Fang Qingshan with an ugly expression. How could this be? Fang Qingshan shook his head and said faintly, if we can't solve it through internal force, we can only take drastic measures. Otherwise, how could Master have settled down and studied Dharma for decades? If that's the case, it can also be resolved. If Jiumaji could calm down and study Buddhism, he wouldn't need to collect all kinds of supreme arts, and he wouldn't have left a hidden danger. Moreover, what was the difference between studying for a few decades and dispersing one's cultivation? Is there really no other way? Jiumaji asked. No. Fang Qingshan shook his head decisively. Hearing this, Jiumaji felt that his life had become gloomy. No, there's more. After a while, Jiumaji suddenly raised his head and smiled strangely. Oh, I'd like to hear the details. Fang Qingshan raised his eyebrows and asked curiously. I can't find the minor non-phase art and the I Ching scripture, but you said before that the same level of martial arts can also be used. Jiumaji said confidently. That's right. Fang Qingshan nodded and asked curiously. In Tantra, besides the dragon elephant prajna art, are there other martial arts that are comparable to the minor non-phase art? No. Jiumaji shook his head. but I know where they are." "Oh, where?" Abai asked. "It's far away, but right in front of you." Jiumaji smiled faintly. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiumaji stamped his foot, and a piece of wooden board flew up. Then he shook his sleeve, and the wooden boards fell into the water one after another. Then Jiumaji stepped on the wooden boards and rushed towards the two boats. "Not good, young master, let's go." Seeing Jiumaji's sudden attack, Zhu and Abai immediately turned pale and were about to paddle. "There's no need. I'm here. What are you afraid of?" Fang Qingshan waved his hand and stood there calmly without moving. Looking at Jiumaji, who was rushing over, Fang Qingshan smiled faintly and said, "It seems that not only did you break your promise, but you also bite the hand that feeds you. I just don't know if your teeth are good or not. Whether it's good or not, we'll know once we try." As he spoke, Jiumaji arrived near the boats. Without saying anything, he straightened his palm like a knife and slashed in the air. In an instant, a fiery red-hot air burst out and slashed towards Fang Qingshan. What a good flame blade! It really deserves its reputation. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan's eyes suddenly lit up and he raised his hand and slashed out. Boom! A dull collision sound rang out in the void, and invisible airflow spread out in all directions. The surrounding water surface seemed to explode like a torpedo, causing a wave to splash. What kind of palm technique is this? It seems to be no weaker than the King Kong strength palm. Jiumaji was shocked. His unique skill had been broken by Fang Qingshan with one palm. It was very powerful. Ever since he had made great progress in his cultivation, he had fought all over the world. He had seen countless heroes and great warriors. However, even the famous Six Meridians godly Sword of the Sky Dragon Temple in the southern sky could not compare to his flame saber. Fang Qingshan's palm was able to match his flame saber. How could Jiumaji not be surprised? However, when he thought about how Fang Qingshan had such power at such a young age, and how he came from the mysterious carefree sect, he could not help but feel a little relieved. This is the unique skill of my martial uncle, Tianshan Tonglao, Tianshan Sixyang Palm. Master, be careful. After saying this, Fang Qingshan took the initiative to attack. Now that Fang Qingshan had the power of Wu Yazi, few people in the Jianghu could defeat him. The only thing he lacked was fighting experience. Although Jiumaji could not keep up with the pace of the times in the later stage, he could be regarded as a top master in the early stage. He suppressed the Southern Heaven region by himself and defeated the Sky Dragon Temple. Even Duan Yu, the young prince, could do nothing when he was captured. How could Fang Qingshan let go of such a good opponent? Fang Qingshan left the boat and walked on the water. He used the wave-like subtle steps and used the six-yang palm of Tianshan Mountain. He circled and danced in the air, attacking Jiumaji. When the palm attack came, Jiumaji suddenly felt cold and hot, hard and soft, yin and yang. He did not dare to be careless. With a shout, he waved his hand, and the air crackled. The blade chi of the flame blade cut out continuously. Bang, 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 bang. A series of gunshots rang out incessantly. The two figures crossed each other, and the wind of the palm and the blade chi collided. The sound was like the sound of fine iron. The aftermath spread out and rolled up thousands of piles of snow. For a moment, in the misty rain, two figures could be seen flying on the water like ghosts. Zhu Bai and Duan Yu were dazzled and did not know what was going on. Chapter 31. They had met their match, and the general had met his talent. Fang Qingshan and Jiumaji's expressions became more and more serious, but they still stared at each other with burning eyes. Secret manuals were rare, weapons were rare, and good opponents were also hard to find. Since Jiumaji's martial arts had reached the peak, he had been fighting all over the world for two reasons. One was to collect martial arts from different sects, and the other was to fight with different masters. This time, it seemed that he had only fought with Fang Qingshan for a few rounds, but it was not easy at all. Whether it was Fang Qingshan's Six Suns Palm of Tianshan Mountain or Jiumaji's Flame Blade, they were all unique skills that were not passed on to others. If they wanted to use them, they would need to have strong inner strength. Otherwise, not only would they be useless, but they would also hurt themselves. This was indeed the top battle in the Jianghu. They used their supreme inner strength to activate the unique skills. If they were not careful, they would be seriously injured even with their cultivation. Bang! 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 Whoosh! 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 Fang Qingshan used wave-like subtle steps on the surface of the lake. He came and went as he pleased, and when he waved his hand, he combined strength with softness. Jiumaji's lightness skill was naturally not as good as Fang Qingshan's, but with his inner strength, he was able to stand still. Fang Qingshan's 6 Suns palm of Tianshan Mountain, continuous slaps. Jiumaji's palm blade slashes. Whether it was the palm power or the blade chi, they were extremely condensed in their hands. When they collided with each other, it was like the sound of iron colliding. However, after the collision, they scattered in all directions, creating a fierce storm. For a moment, a storm started above Lake Tai. Small boats, wooden planks, anything that came close to the battle between the two of them, other than the formless water, was completely smashed into pieces, leaving not a trace behind. Duan Yu and the other two were forced to retreat again and again. They stayed far away from the battle, afraid that they would be involved. Young Master Duan, do you think young master will be in danger? Looking at the misty rain from afar, it was like 2 flying flood dragons. Abai couldn't help but look worried. After all, Fang Qingshan was her uncle master. Duan Yu couldn't help but scratch his head and smiled awkwardly. He was a dabbler. Even though he had absorbed a lot of internal energy from the Dark North Divine Art and the output of the 6-Pulse Divine Sword, even Jiumaji had to avoid it when it was effective. His eyesight and experience were still far behind Jiumaji's. Although he could barely see the fight between Fang Qingshan and Jiumaji, he couldn't tell who was stronger. Well, Abai, don't worry. Since young Master Fang has taken the initiative to attack, he will naturally not fight a battle that he is not sure of. He must have a well-thought-out plan. Zhu comforted. Right. Duan Yu nodded repeatedly. Even if young Master Fang is defeated, if he wants to escape with his wave-like subtle steps, the monk can't stop him. Duan Yu had obtained 2 martial arts from the Infinite Jade Cave. He had always regarded the Dark North Divine Art as a poisonous snake and fierce beast, but the wave-like subtle steps not only made him float like an immortal, which was very in line with his aesthetic standards, but it was also first class for dodging and escaping, so he put some thought into the wave-like subtle steps. When Fang Qingshan used it, it was unpredictable, but also safe. It was difficult to advance, but also difficult to retreat. His body was as swift as a duck, drifting like a god. Naturally, he knew that it was much better than his dabbler. With his wave-like subtle steps, he could easily turn misfortune into blessing, let alone Fang Qingshan. Moreover, watching Fang Qingshan perform the wave-like subtle steps, Duan Yu's eyes were sparkling. This was simply a live teaching. The wave-like subtle steps involved the principles of the Book of Changes in martial arts. He had no problem with the Book of Changes, but in terms of martial arts, Duan Yu was far behind. At this moment, with Fang Qingshan's demonstration, he improved by leaps and bounds. Hearing what they said, Bai was a little relieved. On the field, the two of them exchanged dozens of rounds. Although neither of them had the upper hand, Jiumaji's heart sank instantly. Hard can't be long, soft can't be defended. Although the flame blade was suitable for both long-range and short-range attacks, it was not Tai Chi fist after all. It was fine to defend in a short period of time, but after a long time, it was bound to cause problems. However, at this moment, Jiumaji was in a difficult position. He wanted to retreat or go somewhere else, but Fang Qingshan wouldn't agree to it. Fighting on the water, although both sides consumed internal energy, it was obvious that Jiumaji consumed much more than Fang Qingshan. Although they had only exchanged dozens of rounds, the internal energy consumed was several times that of Fang Qingshan. In addition, although Jiumaji's inner strength was rare in the Jianghu, it paled in comparison to Fang Qingshan's 70 years' worth of inner strength from Wu Yazi. Damn it! After another dozens of rounds, Jiumaji's forehead was already faintly covered in sweat, and his breathing became heavy. On the one hand, he had to keep himself from falling into the water. And on the other hand, he had to deal with Fang Qingshan's fierce attacks. In addition, he had consumed a lot of internal energy. Even with Jiumaji's internal energy, it was obvious that he had consumed a lot of internal energy. At this moment, Jiumaji could not help but begin to regret being so impulsive. Even if he wanted to take it by force, he should have waited for this kid to leave or done it on land. Now, it was too late for regrets. No, I have to think of a way, or else I might die here today. Jiumaji thought about it, and a plan came to him. Bang! There was the sound of a torpedo exploding, and waves splashed up. Jiumaji stomped on the water, and like a fish leaping over the dragon's gate, he instantly shot into the sky. He opened his mouth and let out a long roar. It sounded like an ape's cry, a crane's cry, a dragon's roar, and a phoenix's cry. Fang Qingshan, who was the first to bear the brunt of the attack, was instantly stunned. It was as if a huge bell had rung in his ears, and he temporarily lost his hearing. Fang Qingshan might have been the first to bear the brunt of the attack, but he had a divine skill protecting his body, so he was not injured. His movements were just a little slower, but Duan Yu and the other two who were watching were unlucky. They were knocked unconscious by the sound wave. Lion's roar. At that moment, Jiumaji used one of the Shaolin Temple's 72 ultimate techniques, Lion's Roar. While Fang Qingshan was stunned, Jiumaji did not advance. Instead, he retreated. His sleeves fluttered in the wind, and they were like wings. He spread his arms, and like an eagle, he flew toward the tower behind him. Where's the master? Tantric Buddhism did not have any superior Qigong. Shaolin Temple's 8 steps overtaking cicada and crossing the river on a reed were good, but compared to wave-like subtle steps, they were naturally inferior. Fang Qingshan might have hesitated for a moment, but when he regained his senses, he appeared in front of Jiumaji like a ghost. He raised his hand and struck down at Jiumaji, trying to force him to stop. But Jiumaji knew that if he could not stand firmly on the ground, he would not be able to walk away unscathed. Chapter 32. Roar! Seeing that Fang Qingshan had once again become an obstacle in his way, Jiumaji tapped his left foot on the back of his right foot, flipped his body, and dodged Fang Qingshan's palm attack. Instead of retreating, he moved forward and continued to fall towards the pavilion. At the same time, his hands didn't stop moving. He waved his saber more than 10 times, forming a net of saber blades that covered Fang Qingshan. At the same time, he continued to roar, using the lion's roar to shake Fang Qingshan's mind with the sound waves. Master, you are at your limit. Fang Qingshan had just suffered from the lion's roar, so he was prepared this time and wasn't affected at all. Facing Jiumaji's fire blade net, Fang Qingshan didn't take it seriously either. He waved his hands and drew a circle in front of his chest. A Tai Chi pattern appeared out of nowhere and covered him. Whoosh! 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 The net of blades fell, but it didn't receive any force. It intertwined with the Tai Chi pattern and made the sound of burning iron. Ha! 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 Seeing that Fang Qingshan was blocked, Jiumaji was close to the attic. It was too late for him to chase after Fang Qingshan. Jiumaji smiled. However, at that moment, Fang Qingshan suddenly roared to the sky. At first, he sounded like he was talking and laughing, but gradually his voice became louder and louder. The Shaorao Martial School also had the sound wave skill, but Fang Qingshan didn't have time to learn it. This time he used his pure inner strength. Just like in the novel The Condor Hunt, the Peach Blossom Islands joust to find a spouse, Huang Yaosher was pressing his jade flute, Ouyang Feng was stroking his iron staff, and Hong Qigong was relying on his pure internal energy to make a long whistle, but it was not the slightest bit weaker than the other two sound waves. At that moment, Fang Qingshan was in the same situation. He had unleashed his inner energy to the maximum. Caught off guard, Jiumaji didn't even have time to breathe and almost fell from the air. He had just used his old strength, but he hadn't used it yet. Although Jiumaji was unwilling, he could only return to the surface of the water. However, he did not give up. As soon as his feet touched the surface of the water, he stomped on it with a loud bang. His leg exploded, and almost at the same time, his second leg followed him like a shadow. He strode forward, and with another loud bang, 1,000 piles of snow were swept up. The back leg was followed by the front leg, and the front leg was followed by the back leg. Left and right alternated, like a shadow following the body. The sound was like thunder. This was another ultimate skill of Shaolin Temple, the pursuing shadow kick. Jiumaji used it to escape. He didn't know how the Shaolin Temple's monk would feel when he saw this scene, but to be honest, it complemented each other. Moving on the surface of the water, in addition to being light, logically speaking, as long as one didn't lose a breath and was fast enough, one could also float on the water. Was pursuing shadow kick fast? That was natural, so Jiumaji quickly and easily ran towards the pavilion. Sure enough, his reputation is well-deserved. Looking at Jiumaji's behavior, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but sigh. This time, if Jiumaji hadn't been blinded by greed and underestimated Fang Qingshan's strength, he wouldn't have been able to gain the upper hand in the water. Not to mention forcing Fang Qingshan into such a difficult situation, Jiumaji might not even have been able to gain the upper hand. Even so, it was probably because he had relied on his rich inner force for hundreds of rounds. However, one wrong move led to many more mistakes. Who told him to make a wrong move? If Fang Qingshan didn't seize such a good opportunity, once Jiumaji was on the ground, it would be difficult for him to deal with him. Most importantly, he had expressed his interest in the dragon-elephant Prajna art. If he didn't capture Jiumaji this time, he was afraid that Jiumaji would use this as a threat to force him to give in. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that he didn't have much time. He only had 3 years. If he didn't get the dragon-elephant Prajna art as soon as possible, there would be more problems. Seeing that Jiumaji was only one step away from the ground, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but frown. Looking at the splashing water, he suddenly had an idea. Without thinking too much, Fang Qingshan reached out his hand, and a ball of lake water fell into his palm. He circulated his inner force, and a surge of extreme coldness instantly burst out, freezing the lake water into ice cubes. Then, he performed the Heavenly Mountain 6 Sun Palm, attaching 30% yang and 70% yin energy to the ice cubes. Then he reached out his hand and crushed the ice cubes into many pieces. Then, he threw them toward Jiumaji. Life-death note. Yes, what Fang Qingshan had just used was the Heavenly Mountain Tonglau's ultimate skill, which shocked all the heroes in the 36 caves and the 72 islands in the West region. Although he hadn't learned it, he had learned the Heavenly Mountain 6 Sun Palm. The Life-Death Note and the Heavenly Mountain 6 Sun Palm actually had the same origin. However, one was righteous while the other was evil, and the other was yin while the other was yang. After learning the Heavenly Mountain 6 Sun Palm, the Life-Death Note had almost returned to its original state. On the other side, Jiumaji saw that success was right in front of him, and he couldn't help but relax a bit. Plus, the splashing water sounded like muffled thunder, and the Life-Death Note was an ice cube which was almost undetectable in the water. Therefore, it was Jiumaji's fate. Bang! Jiumaji finally stood on the pavilion again, and his heart relaxed immediately. His serious face relaxed as well. Looking at Fang Qingshan, who was slowly catching up, he put his palms together and said calmly, "I was too impulsive today. Please forgive me, Gongzi." "Master, do you think you can sit back and relax as long as you keep your feet on the ground?" Fang Qingshan looked at him with a faint smile. Jiumaji's heart skipped a beat, and he felt like something was wrong. However, he couldn't tell why. No matter what he thought, he didn't show it on his face. Instead, he said lightly, "Gongzi, you have great cultivation strength, but I'm not weak either. If we continue to fight, I'm afraid that both of us will be injured." Fang Qingshan couldn't deny it. Not to mention that he could kill Jiumaji with his inner force, he could also kill Jiumaji with the Tai Chi fist. However, Fang Qingshan didn't expose him. Instead, he said lightly, "Let's not talk about this for now. Let's talk about what happened earlier. I told you the way to solve the hidden danger. Shouldn't you show your sincerity and tell me the dragon-elephant Prajna art?" "Gongzi, you're wrong. Earlier, we agreed that as long as the hidden danger was solved, I would give you the dragon elephant prajna art. Unfortunately, I don't have it now, so... Zhilmaji shook his head and said, please forgive me for not agreeing. Dispersing the art will solve the problem. It's just that I don't want to, Fong Qingshan said calmly. It seems that you don't want to give me the dragon elephant prajna art. I said that as long as you help me solve the hidden danger, I will give you the dragon elephant prajna art. Of course, dispersing the art is not an option. Zhilmaji was also calm, as if he was certain that he could defeat Fong Qingshan. Gongzi, you should think about it carefully. Although the dragon elephant prajna art is widely known, the core is still hidden in the Holy Land. Other than me, no one else knows about it. As for breaking into the Holy Land, Chapter 33. I'm afraid your martial uncle won't be able to return either. Zhilmaji smiled confidently. Although Tantric Buddhism was suppressed by Shaolin Temple to the point that it almost had no foothold in the Central Plains and could not take a step forward, there was still a considerable factor. It did not mean that Tantric Buddhism was inferior to Shaolin Zen Buddhism. Tantric Buddhism was an absolute overlord in the Western region, beyond the Great Wall, and in the grassland. Although they didn't have many top masters, they definitely had many first-class masters. As for the Potala Palace, as the sacred land of Tantra, there were even more experts. Even if Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui went there, they might not be able to guarantee that they would be able to escape unscathed. Therefore, Fong Qingshan had never thought of stealing secret manuals from Tantra. So, you want me dead? Fong Qingshan didn't get angry. He just glanced at Zhilmaji. No, I'm just telling you the truth. Zhilmaji smiled. Fong Qingshan was silent for a while. He looked up at Zhilmaji and shook his head. Even if I teach you the Northern Underworld divine art, you won't practice it. Why not? Seeing that Fong Qingshan had compromised, Zhilmaji was relieved. He said happily, as long as you teach me the Northern Underworld divine art, I will teach you the dragon elephant prajna art immediately. We'll do the transaction. Monk, are you sure you want to do this? Fong Qingshan chuckled. Yes. Although this would offend Fong Qingshan and the Carefree School, he was backed by Tantric Buddhism, so he wasn't afraid of Fong Qingshan. Do you know the characteristics of the Northern Underworld divine art? Fong Qingshan changed the topic and asked Zhilmaji. Zhilmaji frowned. He didn't know what Fong Qingshan meant, but he still said, I'd like to hear the details. The Northern Underworld divine art can absorb all rivers into the sea, but it is also incompatible. Looking at Zhilmaji's confused expression, Fong Qingshan slowly explained. In other words, if you want to cultivate the dark North divine art, you need to first disperse your original power. Young Master Fong, you're messing with me. Hearing this, Zhilmaji was furious and a cold light flashed in his eyes. I don't have time to play with you. Fong Qingshan shook his head, as if he didn't feel threatened by Zhilmaji at all. He pointed at Duan Yu in the distance and said, there's another person who cultivates the Northern Underworld divine art. Why don't we wake him up and ask him? Seeing how certain Fong Qingshan was, Zhilmaji became silent. He believed Fong Qingshan's words subconsciously. He didn't expect that even with the Dark North divine technique, he couldn't avoid the step of dispersing his cultivation. Since that's the case, young Master Fong, please bring out the minor phaseless art and then submit the matter of exchanging it for the dragon elephant prajna art. It seems like the great master intends to resist to the end. Fong Qingshan wasn't angry. He reminded him lightly, Master, do you feel any discomfort in your body? Zhilmaji was stunned at first, then his expression changed. He thought that Fong Qingshan had poisoned him. He quickly circulated his internal energy and found nothing strange. He couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. As long as his internal energy was still there, he could survive even in a desperate situation. He carefully sensed again, but there was no trace of poison. Zhilmaji couldn't help but look up at Fong Qingshan and slowly said, Young Master Fong, you're not trying to scare me on purpose, are you? My time is precious. I won't waste it on nonsense. Fong Qingshan's expression didn't change. He reminded him slightly, Great monk, feel if your waist is slightly itchy. Zhilmaji didn't feel it at first, but after being reminded by Fong Qingshan, he suddenly felt itchy on his waist. He couldn't help but be shocked, knowing that he had fallen into Fang Qingshan's trap. He hurriedly circulated his internal energy, trying to get rid of the poison. However, as he circulated his internal energy, not only did it not reduce the effect, but it also increased the itchiness. He felt a needle-like pain, as if thousands of ants were biting him. The more it was like this, the more Jiamaji lost his mind. He wanted to use his internal energy to get rid of the poison, but he didn't know the trick. Not only did it not work, but it also made the life-death note more active. What a despicable thief. What kind of poison is this? Jiamaji couldn't stand still anymore. He stumbled and fell to the ground. His body was shaking, and his face was twitching. Although he wanted to overcome it with his great willpower, it didn't work. Despicable? I won't accept it. If the great master didn't go back on his words, how could Qingshan use such an extreme method? Seeing Jiamaji's painful look, Fang Qingshan didn't have the slightest sympathy for him. Originally, he only wanted to exchange the dragon elephant prajna art. If Jiamaji didn't use his little trick, it would be fine. However, since Jiamaji dared to attack him, he had to bear the consequences. This time, he not only wanted to get the dragon elephant prajna art, but he also couldn't waste Jiamaji's internal energy. His master needed internal energy to recover, and Jiamaji's minor formless art came from the same source. What kind of poison is this? Great master, you are wrong. Fang Qingshan found a place to sit down and said slowly, I wonder if the great master has heard of the life-death note of my martial uncle, Heavenly Mountain Tonglao. What? This is the life-death note? In the West region, although Heavenly Mountain couldn't be compared to Tantric Buddhism, it was the only force that could compete with it. How could they not study their opponent's methods thoroughly? For Tantric Buddhism, besides Heavenly Mountain Tonglao's ultimate technique, they were most afraid of the life-death note. Tantric Buddhism had studied it secretly, but they couldn't find a solution. Hearing that it was the life-death note, Jiamaji's face turned pale. It seems that the great master knows about it. Fang Qingshan said with a smile, once the life-death note is activated, it will become more and more powerful. The itching and pain will increase for 81 days, and then gradually decrease. After 81 days, the itching and pain will increase again, and the cycle will repeat endlessly. I've heard that there are sadhus in Tantra Buddhism who are good at using all kinds of difficulties to cultivate. I wonder if my life-death note can help you achieve enlightenment. If it were before, Jiamaji would have regretted his impulsive move, but now he regretted it very much. If he could turn back time, he would never play tricks. As mentioned before, Tantric Buddhism had studied the life-death note, but even the most powerful sadhus couldn't pass the 81 difficulties. Even though Jiamaji was confident, he knew that he couldn't endure it. Child Fang, what do I have to do to get rid of this life-death note? Jiamaji was a decisive man. Since he knew that resistance was useless, he decided to compromise, which would save him some pain. Seeing Jiamaji's willingness, Fang Qingshan froze for a second. Then he nodded and agreed with Jiamaji. After all, a wise man submits to circumstances. Fang Qingshan reached out and stopped the life-death note. Chapter 34. Originally, I only wanted the great master's dragon elephant prajna art, but now I'm afraid this price is not enough. If Fang Qingshan didn't take advantage of this time, he would be too stupid. What do you want? Just tell me. I will do my best as long as it is within my ability. Jiamaji could not help but smile bitterly. After roaming the Jianghu for more than 10 years, he could be considered to have an illustrious reputation. However, he did not expect to go for wool and come home shorn. His illustrious reputation was ruined in one day. He had brought this upon himself. He was like a fish on a chopping block. He could only resign himself to fate. Master, if you had been so straightforward, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. Fang Qingshan couldn't help but shake his head at Jiamaji's stubbornness. Jiamaji could not help but smile bitterly and shake his head. If he had known it would end like this, he would not have done anything unnecessary. Not only would he lose face, but he would also lose everything. Unfortunately, money could not buy that. Apart from the dragon elephant prajna art, I have often heard about the Tantric Mahamudra and the six-syllable Sanskrit. Master, please tell me about them. Fong Qingshan made his request. Geomaji opened his mouth, but could not say anything. There were powerful Mahamudra, which was not weaker than the flame saber. It could even be comparable to the dragon elephant Prajna art. However, there were also weak ones, like the Mahamudra practiced by Lingji Shanren. However, the six-syllable Sanskrit was truly a top-notch inheritance. It was also known as the six-syllable Sanskrit, or Wangmani and I Miham. In the journey to the west, Gautama Buddha relied on this piece of paper to suppress the Monkey King. Although it was only a martial arts world now, the six-syllable Sanskrit was more precious than the dragon elephant. Fine, I will give it to you. However, this is a direct inheritance of our tantric sect. You must not spread it. Otherwise, you will become our enemy. Even though the Carefree School is powerful, it may not be as powerful as the tantric sect. Remember. Geomaji only gave a warning, but did not oppose. Don't worry, Master. I just want to learn from others. I'm not willing to do something that's strenuous and unrewarding. Fong Qingshan couldn't help but laugh when he saw Geomaji relent. Fong Qingshan didn't ask Geomaji to tell him the secret technique right away. Instead, he leaped into the air and walked on the water. He woke up Duan Yu and the other two and brought them back. Young Master, you won? Duan Yu and the other two, who had just woken up, were still a little confused. Seeing Geomaji's dejected expression, Abai had a guess in her heart and could not help but ask. Not bad. Fong Qingshan nodded. Great. Abai jumped with joy. Fong Qingshan was her martial uncle, but Geomaji wanted to capture them. No matter from which aspect, she had reason to be happy. Not to mention Abai. Even Duan Yu and Aju also let out a long sigh of relief. Okay, girl, I'm going to stay here for a while. Go find 2 rooms for me and the master, and prepare some food. Fong Qingshan did not stand on ceremony and directly ordered Abai. Okay. Regarding Fong Qingshan's change in attitude, not only Abai, but also Aju had no objection. Sister Abai, take young Master Fong and the master to the room. I will go prepare food and wine for you. What about me? Duan Yu jumped out and asked. You go do what you need to do. When I leave, you can come back to the Carefree sect with me. After all, your martial arts are the unique skills of the Carefree sect. However, Fong Qingshan was thinking that Duan Yu did not know how fortunate he was to be so averse to practicing martial arts. Duan Yu had obtained the Northern Underworld Divine Art, a peerless divine art that could cause bloodshed in Jianghu, but he had abandoned it like it was trash. If that was the case, he might as well use his inner force to heal Wu Yazi and give him some chess records, calligraphy, and paintings. Duan Yu might even ask for more. Oh! Hearing what Fong Qingshan said, Duan Yu did not refute. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Fong Qingshan brought Geomaji to his room. The two sat on the couch, facing each other. Fong Qingshan sat cross-legged, and Geomaji sat down with his hands clasped together. There was a small table between the two with ink, paper, and inkstone on it. Master, let's start, Fong Qingshan said to Geomaji after adjusting his breathing and picking up the ink brush. Okay. At this time, Geomaji naturally had no room to refute. First, he recited the dragon elephant Prajna art word by word. The esoteric sect rarely passed down their martial arts in written form. Most of them were passed down by word of mouth. However, Fong Qingshan was not a member of the esoteric sect, so he naturally did not have to follow his rules. In order to prevent mistakes and omissions, good memory was naturally not as good as a bad pen. While Geomaji was reading, Fong Qingshan was writing at the same time. His pen moved like a dragon and a snake, and it took him 6 hours to finish. Even with Fong Qingshan's cultivation, he could not help but shake his arms and sigh. No wonder the ink brush was eliminated. The efficiency was too low. After recording the dragon elephant Prajna art, Fong Qingshan did not let Geomaji stop. He used his internal force to dredge his arms, and Fong Qingshan continued to work hard, recording the Mahamudra and the 6-word mantra one by one. Fong Qingshan had already told them that if they did not come out, Abai and the others could not go in and disturb them. After being busy for half a day, although Fong Qingshan was hungry, he did not go out to eat. He first picked up the recorded secret manual and looked at it, then said to Jiumaji, "Master, can you please repeat the secret manual just now?" Although it was please, Fong Qingshan's tone was unquestionable. "Young Master Fong, are you suspecting that the monk is cheating?" Hearing this, Jiumaji suddenly became angry. A monk does not lie. How could a monk do such a thing that would make him lose face? Is that so? Maybe I have misunderstood, Master. Fong Qingshan stared at Jiumaji without blinking. Seeing that he could not see any clues, he did not care and said, "But as the saying goes, do not have the heart to harm others, but do not have the heart to guard against others. It's not that I don't believe, Master, it's just that it's good for you, good for me, good for everyone, so please repeat it." Although Jiumaji was a prisoner at the moment, Fong Qingshan did not take it lightly at all. What a monk does not lie. It was simply a joke. How many monks lie? Even an honest person like Guojing played a trick when passing the Ninein Sutra to Ouyang Feng, let alone Jiumaji. When it came to martial arts manuals, especially the more powerful the martial arts, the more it could not be wrong by a single word. The slightest mistake could lead to 1,000 miles of error. Otherwise, it was very easy for one to go berserk. Fong Qingshan did not want to end up like Ouyang Feng. At least Ouyang Feng could use the fake sutra to practice the real divine art and finally recover his consciousness. Fong Qingshan did not dare to use himself as an experiment. Chapter 35. I'll repeat it then. Jiumaji coldly snorted and did not say anything else. He quickly repeated what he had seen in the previous secret technique once more. On the surface, Jiumaji didn't say anything. Instead, he seemed to be very angry because he was wronged. However, he had to lower his head. But secretly, Jiumaji couldn't help but feel lucky. Being controlled by Fong Qingshan with the life-death notes, how could Jiumaji not be angry? How could he be willing to tell Fong Qingshan the secret technique of his sect? It wasn't that Jiumaji didn't think about changing the technique to trap Fong Qingshan. However, this matter was easier said than done. Although he was also considered a martial arts master, it was not an easy task to modify a divine skill like the dragon-elephant prajna art, especially since the time was short, and he could not let Fong Qingshan find out that there was a problem. It was even more difficult. Moreover, Jiumaji cherished his life very much. If he didn't care about his life, he wouldn't have attacked Fong Qingshan. If he didn't care about his life, he wouldn't have been caught by Fong Qingshan. Not to mention whether Fong Qingshan would notice anything wrong with the technique. Jiumaji didn't believe that Fong Qingshan would let him go immediately after getting the technique. Plus, Heavenly Mountain Tonglao and the others were behind Jiumaji. Therefore, after thinking for a while, Jiumaji didn't play any tricks. He didn't want to test the power of the life-death notes again. It was not an exaggeration to say that there was no road to heaven and no door to the earth, that one could neither live nor die. Because of his previous hesitation, Jiumaji felt lucky and said it so confidently. Ha ha. Qingshan has gauged the heart of a gentleman with his own mean measure. I hereby apologize to Grandmaster. After hearing Jiumaji's words, Fong Qingshan was completely relieved. He stood up and apologized to Jiumaji. You are the fish on the chopping block. Don't pretend. Jiumaji glanced at Fong Qingshan and said sarcastically. In this regard, Fong Qingshan didn't mind. He walked out of the room with Jiumaji and asked Bai to prepare a table of food and wine. After eating a good meal, he couldn't wait to find a secluded place to cultivate. As for Jiumaji, he had the life and death notes. Fong Qingshan didn't believe that anyone could solve it except for the 6 sun palms of Sky Mountain from the Carefree sect or the 9 sun godly art, which was a pure yang martial art. Besides, Jiumaji had already tried it, so Fong Qingshan wasn't worried that he would escape. Impatience was the most taboo in cultivation. Fong Qingshan didn't cultivate immediately after arriving at the quiet room. Instead, he sat cross-legged and recited the Tao Te Ching. Only after he had completely calmed down did he open the dragon-elephant prajna art. This skill was divided into 13 layers. Every time a layer was cultivated, it would increase the strength of one dragon and one elephant. Once it was completely cultivated, one would immediately possess the strength of 13 dragons and 13 elephants. Even the Shaolin Temple's sweeping monks, 3 feet protective of standing chi, would be shattered in one hit. It's a pity that it's extremely rare to even reach the 8th or 9th stage of this martial art, let alone complete it. At the end of the Song Dynasty, Jinluan Fuwang reached the 10th stage and was able to fight against the 5 peerless masters by himself without falling behind. This was already considered a genius with extraordinary talent and heaven-bestowed talent. As for the last 3 levels, even the creator of this technique didn't manage to cultivate it. Just like the 7th level of the Ming cult's Heaven and Earth Great Shift, it was probably just a guess and hadn't been put into practice. However, Fang Qingshan didn't care about this for the time being. It wouldn't be too late to study it when he reached the 10th level. Fang Qingshan opened the first level of the secret manual. His eyes were blank, and he didn't flip to the back. At first glance, it was just a crude heart technique. It was no different from the Arhat heart technique or the soft palm heart technique. However, the more he looked at it, the more interesting it became. The profound meaning contained within was not something that could be understood in a short time. The reason for this was because it involved the dragon-elephant visualization method and involved the cultivation of the mind. Although visualization was not uncommon in Buddhism, such as the white bone view, the impure view, and so on, this was only a martial arts world. It was only used as a method to calm the mind. Therefore, this visualization method wasn't valued by people. Even if it was valued, there was no way around it. Elephants were fine, but dragons were legendary creatures. No one had ever seen one, so how could they visualize it? It was precisely because the cultivation of the dragon-elephant prajna technique didn't focus on visualization that it required twice the effort for half the result. After all, the first level of cultivation has the power of a dragon and an elephant, but the real situation is that it is just a little stronger, and it is not even a natural divine power. Even so, it will take 1 or 2 years to successfully cultivate the first level of martial arts. The second level is twice as deep as the first level, and it takes 3 or 4 years. The third level is twice as deep as the second level, and it takes 7 or 8 years. The further it went, the more time it took to complete it would increase by several folds. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan came from the immortal world. Not to mention dragons, there are even immortals and Buddhas, so he saw the essence of the dragon-elephant prajna technique at a glance. If you want to succeed in cultivation, you must visualize the dragon-elephant diagram. Although Fang Qingshan has never seen a real dragon or a statue, he believes that there is. And then from the big bang of information in the future, what pictures of holy beasts and fierce beasts have not been seen? Therefore, it was not as difficult as he imagined to construct the dragon-elephant diagram in his mind. Although the dragon-elephant he visualizes now is only the shape and not the spirit, it is obviously faster and more accurate than other people's cultivation. In the future, when he returns to the immortal world and observes the real dragon-elephant, this martial art can be greatly improved. In the world of martial arts, except for the everlasting eternal spring art that has not been passed down by the carefree sect, and the lost marrow-cleansing scripture of Shaolin, Fang Qingshan has not seen a martial art that can compare to the dragon-elephant prajna technique. Whether it is the dark north divine art, only I am supreme, or the small non-phase art, or the later 9 yin and 9 yang. The 10th level of the dragon-elephant technique can be compared to the top state of these martial arts. Fang Qingshan feels that if he really cultivates to the highest level of the dragon-elephant technique, he may really be able to break through the secret realm by force. Therefore, he now attaches great importance to the cultivation of the dragon-elephant prajna technique. After confirming that the route of the first level of the dragon-elephant prajna technique has been firmly remembered in his heart, Fang Qingshan closed the secret book and began to urge the unreasonably thick, dark, north divine art in his body, according to the route of the dragon-elephant technique. Although in this way, every time a circulation, a trace of pure dark north, true qi disappeared, but Fang Qingshan did not regret it at all. The reason why he had previously planned the dark north divine art was actually to provide convenience for the cultivation of the dragon elephant technique. After all, if he practiced it step by step, this martial art would really take too much time. Moreover, although the dark north true chi has been completely accepted by himself, it is not cultivated by himself in the end. He can't see the problem now, but when the cultivation is high, there will be endless troubles in the future. Chapter 36. A 10,000-foot tall building rises from the ground, and a 1,000-mile dike is destroyed by an ant's nest. Feng Qingshan was a man with great vision. His goal was not the sea of stars, but all the worlds in the universe. So, how could he ruin his foundation for a small gain? The earlier the foundation was fixed, the better. The later it was fixed, the more troublesome it would be. Even if it could be fixed, the time, experience, resources, and so on would be unimaginable. This could still be fixed, but if it couldn't be fixed, the consequences would be too severe. This could be seen from the swordsmen of Shushan. Many of them had cultivated to the level of loose immortal, earth immortal, and even heavenly immortal, but they had no choice but to reincarnate. This was because it was already extremely difficult for them to advance further, so they had no choice but to do so. Feng Qingshan didn't want to go through the cycle of reincarnation. Feng Qingshan moved his circulatory cycle and circulated his inner force while visualizing the dragon elephant according to his memories from his previous life. However, this method was easier said than done. The general outline was easy to visualize, but the fine details were difficult to take seriously. After all, other than ordinary elephants, he did not know what a real divine elephant looked like. As for the divine dragon, it only existed in myths and legends. One could only see its head but not its tail. Therefore, everything could only be imagined by himself based on the messy pictures on the internet. The only elephant that Feng Qingshan could think of was the mount of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva in the journey to the west, the spirit tooth fairy. She was 30 feet tall, with eyebrows like a reclining silkworm, eyes like a red phoenix, a beautiful voice, teeth like a plate, and a nose like a flood dragon. Therefore, Feng Qingshan used an ordinary elephant as the rough outline. Spirit Tooth Fairy is the standard, supplemented by other elephants that he had seen, and built a complete mighty elephant in his mind. Then he added some symbols of Shinran and reorganized a dragon elephant. As for whether it was correct or not, Feng Qingshan did not care. It had 4 legs and 6 tusks. Its thick elephant legs were like 4 heavenly pillars, and its 6 tusks were like 6 heavenly swords, gleaming with a cold light. Its entire body was covered with a thick layer of scales that looked like dragon scales. The green scales shone brightly. Its eyes were like a dragon's eyes, and its nose was like a dragon's tail. He looked mighty and domineering, but unfortunately, his eyes were lifeless. He only had the form, but not the spirit. However, Feng Qingshan was very satisfied with this, because with the completion of the dragon elephant visualization diagram, not only did his cultivation speed increase by several times, but some of the problems he encountered during his observation were also suddenly solved. Sure enough, the visualization technique is the key. Feng Qingshan was overjoyed. However, he knew that he was in the middle of cultivation, and the most important thing for him was to not have any emotional fluctuations. Thus, he quickly restrained himself. What he didn't know was that with the circulation of the dragon-elephant prajna art, the dragon and elephant diagram in his mind underwent some changes that were almost invisible to the naked eye. Not only did the visualization method promote the cultivation of the divine skill, but the cultivation of the divine skill was also feeding the visualization method. The two complemented each other. Maybe in the end, Feng Qingshan didn't need to find a real dragon elephant to study, and he could get a real dragon elephant visualization picture. However, all of this was not known to Feng Qingshan at the moment. He was now immersed in the cultivation of the first level of the dragon elephant prajna art. According to Feng Qingshan's understanding and Jiao Maji's description, the first level of the dragon elephant prajna art was like the Arhut fist and the Wudong soft palm. It didn't require talent, but perseverance. Even a stupid person could learn it after spending 1 or 2 years and practicing diligently. Of course, This cultivation was under the condition that one's talent and resources were not enough. One could only meditate and cultivate every day for 10 years. However, Fang Qingshan was different. Although his talent was not as good as Jinluan Fuwang's, he could be considered a little genius because he inherited Wu Yazi's internal force and made up for the sequela of his deficiency. In addition, he obtained the essence of the dragon-elephant prajna art and the dragon-elephant visualization method. At the same time, he also had 70 years of Wu Yazi's energy to squander. Naturally, his cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds. Kacha. As Fang Qingshan moved his circulatory cycle, if someone were to stand beside him, they would be able to clearly hear the bones in his body emitting a crisp sound, like beans being fried. If one could look inside, they could see that every time Fang Qingshan used the dragon-elephant prajna art, a trace of dark north qi disappeared. It didn't disappear into thin air, but was consumed with the circulation of the technique and the tempering of the bones. If one looked inside, they could clearly see that carrying the dark north qi was tempering the meridians. With the circulation of the dark north qi, Fang Qingshan's bones were further strengthened. Every time the 206 bones in his body were tempered, they would become stronger and smaller, and black impurities would be eliminated. Fang Qingshan was immersed in cultivation. Although he couldn't clearly sense the changes, he knew that his breathing was getting longer and longer. His qi and blood were getting more and more condensed, and the strength contained in his limbs was getting stronger. 3 hours later, with the first level of the dragon-elephant prajna art being carried by Fang Qingshan for 81 great circulatory cycles, Fang Qingshan's whole body shook, and the bones of his whole body made a crackling sound like a series of cannons. He opened his eyes, and there was a flash of light, like lightning in the night sky. He spat out a mouthful of turbid air with a trace of black, but it was the impurities that were eliminated when the bones were tempered. The pores were not completely eliminated, and they were spat out with the breath. The first level is completed, Fang Qingshan said to himself with a smile on his face. Standing up, Fang Qingshan looked a little shorter than before, but the impurities in the bones were eliminated, and the body was condensed. In the future, as long as the nutrition kept up, he could naturally grow taller. 5 fingers clenched into a fist, and a punch was thrown out. He only felt that the strength in his hands had doubled, and the muscles in his limbs and waist had become more full and powerful. This was not the blessing of internal strength, but completely from the strength of the flesh. Although the success of the first level was equivalent to health and strength training, Fang Qingshan was already very satisfied. It was not in vain to plot for Wu Yazi's internal strength. If it was not for Wu Yazi's internal strength, how could Fang Qingshan compete with Jiumaji? And how could he obtain the dragon-elephant prajna art so easily? Although he understood the true meaning of the dragon-elephant prajna art, without the time when he carried the true qi to temper his meridians, without the support of the dark north true qi, how could he have practiced the first level of the dragon-elephant in 6 hours? Therefore, every peck and every drink was predetermined. I spent 6 hours on the first level. I wonder how long the second level will take. Although 6 hours had passed, Fang Qingshan was not tired at all, nor was he hungry. His whole body was in a state of excitement. Striking while the iron was hot, he did not rest. After adjusting his state, Fang Qingshan immediately returned to the bed, sat cross-legged, and began to study the second level of the dragon-elephant prajna art. After memorizing it, he put the secret manual aside and began to visualize the dragon-elephant while moving the true qi. Chapter 37. There was no sun and moon in the mountains. 1,000 years had passed in the world. Cultivation was the easiest way to lose track of time, especially during the process of cultivation. You could clearly feel yourself growing stronger at every moment. That feeling was probably even more comfortable than eating a ginseng fruit. Fang Qingshan's cultivation was low now, and he hadn't even reached the magical power realm yet. It was naturally impossible for him to go into seclusion for 800 years. However, since he entered the quiet room, 2 days and 2 nights had passed. The food placed at the door had been changed again and again, but it was hot and cold again. She didn't see him open the door even once, which made Abai worried to death. Sister Aju, do you think young master had an accident? Aju stared at Fong Qingshan's room without blinking, as if the door would open in the next moment. But her mouth was muttering and asking Aju. Okay, Abai, young Master Fong should be fine. His cultivation is so high, even if he starves for 2 days, there won't be any problem. Aju comforted helplessly. It wasn't that she was impatient, but since half a day ago, Abai had asked this question over and over again dozens of times. Is that so? Abai frowned slightly, looking pitiful, which made people feel distressed. Yes, Sister Abai, young Master Fong is blessed by the heavens. He will be fine. Duan Yu also comforted. Creak. At this moment, the door of Fong Qingshan's room that had been closed for nearly 3 days finally opened for the first time. Fong Qingshan walked out of the door. Although he was a little tired, his face was full of smiles. Young Master, you finally came out. Are you okay? Abai was the first to rush over and asked worriedly. And Fong Qingshan raised his eyebrows and didn't react for the first time. Young Master Fong, if you didn't come out, I'm afraid Abai would break in. Aju smiled. Yes, yes. Duan Yu also nodded again and again. Seeing that Fong Qingshan was a little confused, he explained. You have been in seclusion for 2 days and 2 nights, and you haven't used any food or water. Sister Abai was worried that you had an accident during your cultivation, so she was very worried. Oh, 2 days and 2 nights? Fong Qingshan was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that cultivating the second stage of the dragon-elephant prajna art would take so long. One had to know that Fong Qingshan had only spent a short 6 hours on the first level of cultivation, but he had spent 7 times more time on the second level than the first level, which really surprised him. Sure enough, even though he had taken a shortcut in the cultivation of the dragon-elephant prajna art, the amount of time spent on each level was increasing. According to this pattern, the first level would take 6 hours, the second level would take 40 hours, the third level would take about 14 days, the fourth level would take about 3 months, and the fifth level would take about 2 years. No way. The more Fong Qingshan calculated, the more troubled he became. Although he had saved a lot of time compared to his original cultivation, Fong Qingshan still felt that it was too slow. One had to know that he had comprehended the true essence of the dragon-elephant prajna art and had the dark north divine art as a flame retardant, but it still took so much time. This divine art was simply a trap. In fact, what he didn't know was that it was because he had comprehended the true essence of the dragon-elephant prajna art that the progress of his cultivation did not advance by leaps and bounds as he had imagined. Although he had only cultivated the second level, and although he had not reached the power of 2 dragons and 2 elephants as stated in the cultivation method, he had gained many more benefits than other cultivators. Although he was still at the stage of strength training, it was equivalent to the stage of strength training for those who were born with divine strength. Challenging someone of a higher level was not a problem for him at all. Strength alone could defeat 10. Not to mention moves, even those in the hard and soft realm were no match for him. Young Master, what's wrong with you? Seeing Fong Qingshan's eyes were dull, his face pale, and he was silent. Abai and others couldn't help but ask worriedly. It's nothing, I was just thinking about cultivation. Fong Qingshan came back to his senses and looked at their worried expressions. He couldn't help but feel warm in his heart, and then he put these problems behind him. There will always be a way when the car arrives at the mountain, and the bridge will naturally go straight. He didn't care about him now, and he would think about it after he finished the 4th level. Go, Abai, prepare a table of food for me. If I'm satisfied, I will teach you the secret technique of the carefree sect. Fong Qingshan originally liked Abai very much, and seeing that she really regarded him as a senior of the sect, the sense of identity in his heart was even deeper. The elder naturally had to give a greeting gift to the younger generation, so Fong Qingshan decided to teach her the secret technique of the carefree sect. The reason for this decision was that although the martial arts of the carefree sect was profound, there were many things that required profound internal strength to cultivate. As for the cultivation of internal strength, he couldn't just pass it on without the permission of the 3 elders of the carefree sect. Besides, He only knew the dark north divine art, which was not so suitable for Abai. As for the wave-treading subtle steps, it was different. Not only was this technique a profound qigong, but it could also assist in the cultivation of internal strength. When executed, it was like a fairy walking on the waves, floating in out of this world, and it was just suitable for women to cultivate. Moreover, no matter if it was killing and robbing or fleeing for one's life, it was an essential quality. With it, one's life would be guaranteed. Abai was stunned and didn't react. Aju quickly reminded, "Thank young Master Fong." Yes, yes, Sister Abai, the carefree sect is the technique that I know. It's very beautiful, and it's essential for escaping. Duan Yu nodded in agreement. Thank you, young master. Abai came back to her senses and quickly thanked him. It's too early to thank me. Let's look at the food first. Fong Qingshan smiled. I guarantee that you will be satisfied. Abai also knew that Fong Qingshan was joking, so she guaranteed. Impossible. During the meal, Jiumaji also appeared. When he saw Fong Qingshan, who was a little shorter, he was still a little uncomfortable, but then his face changed and he exclaimed, "Oh, why is it impossible?" Fong Qingshan saw Jiumaji's expression as if he had seen a ghost and knew that he had succeeded in his cultivation, so he asked calmly, 2 days, 2 days. How is it possible? Absolutely impossible. Jiumaji didn't pay attention to Fong Qingshan's words at all. The dragon-elephant prajna art as a tantric divine art has been passed down for hundreds of years, nearly 1,000 years. It was unknown how many geniuses had appeared during this period, but according to records, the fastest person to cultivate it took 18 days to complete the first level of cultivation. He also tried to cultivate it in the past, and it took him 3 months to complete the first level, but it took him 2 years to complete the second level. Therefore, Jiumaji decisively gave up. But today, what did he see? Fong Qingshan only spent 2 days to learn the first level. It was simply blinding his dog eyes. He didn't know that Fong Qingshan had not only mastered the first level, but also the second level. Otherwise, he didn't know if his outlook on life would be subverted. Chapter 38. Did you really learn it? Jiumaji was still skeptical. Indeed, no one had been as fast as him since ancient times. Master, didn't you see it? Fong Qingshan smiled. Is this the will of God? Jiumaji murmured to himself. Tantric Buddhism had been passed down for thousands of years. There were countless geniuses, but none of them had been as fast as Fong Qingshan. Fong Qingshan had just finished the first level of cultivation. It was as if this cultivation method was born to wait for him. Master, don't be too arrogant. Looking at Jiumaji, who was looking at him as if he was a real Buddha, Fong Qingshan could not help but laugh. He explained, the reason why I can cultivate so fast is because I took a shortcut. Impossible. Jiumaji firmly denied Fong Qingshan's words. Who wouldn't want to take a shortcut? As a large sect with a long history, how could Tantric Buddhism not think of treasures, elixirs, and medicines? However, even if they collected treasures, elixirs, and medicines that were helpful to the cultivation of physical cultivation methods, they were not that useful to the cultivation of the dragon-elephant prajna art. Therefore, Jiumaji denied Fong Qingshan's claim that he took a shortcut. Master, let me finish. Fong Qingshan waved his hand and asked a question. Master, what do you think of my cultivation? Of course, Jiumaji said snappily. Even I can't compare to you. I don't know how you manage to cultivate such dense and pure inner force. In Jianghu, not to mention your peers, even those of the same generation as you, or even those of a higher generation, would pale in comparison to you. Fong Qingshan was not modest in response to Jiumaji's words. He nodded and said, that's right. I use my inner force as fuel to promote the cultivation of the dragon-elephant prajna art. Plus, my comprehension is good, and my body seems to be suitable for cultivation. Therefore, completing the cultivation of the dragon-elephant prajna art so quickly is not something unbelievable. What? Jiumaji was shocked after hearing Fong Qingshan's words. The way of heaven was to take what was surplus and make up for what was lacking. Fong Qingshan was using his almost unrivaled inner force to make up for the cultivation of the dragon-elephant prajna art. Is it worth it? Jiumaji looked at Fong Qingshan, confused. Yes, the dragon-elephant prajna technique was indeed an unprecedented technique. But for him, was it really worth it to give up the inner force that could originally dominate the world? One had to know that although the dragon-elephant prajna art was good, no one had ever successfully cultivated it. He had always heard of people learning from others, but he had never seen someone as extreme as Fong Qingshan. Could he really guarantee that he could successfully cultivate the dragon-elephant prajna art with inner force as nourishment? What if it didn't work? His inner force was consumed again, and the dragon-elephant prajna art was stuck. Wouldn't it be like drawing water with a wicker basket? Therefore, Jiumaji couldn't understand what Fong Qingshan was doing. It's worth it, Fong Qingshan said decisively. One was obtained through hard work, and the other was given by someone else. How could it not be worth it? But Jiumaji wanted to say something, but stopped. It wasn't just him. Although a Bai and a Zhu weren't very powerful, they were also very knowledgeable. They also couldn't understand why Fong Qingshan was doing this. On the other hand, Duan Yu seemed to understand. Fong Qingshan was younger than Jiumaji, but he had more inner force than Jiumaji. It was like a fairy tale, but it had happened in front of everyone. Even if he started cultivating in his mother's womb, it would be impossible. Therefore, it was almost impossible for him to cultivate on his own. In addition, Fong Qingshan had already said that he cultivated the same dark north divine art as him. Duan Yu understood that he must have used this evil art to devour other people's inner force to make up for the excess. Since it wasn't obtained through hard work, he naturally wouldn't feel so bad about it. However, when he thought of how Fong Qingshan was devouring other people's inner force to help himself, Duan Yu felt a little indignant. Fong Qingshan's power was at this level, and his senses were very strong. Duan Yu's resentful eyes almost made him think that he was a heinous person. After thinking about it, he understood why Duan Yu was like this. He couldn't help but shake his head and said, not to mention that there has never been a rumor of someone disappearing for no reason. Even if it's for the sake of one's own foundation, one can't devour indiscriminately. Moreover, with my inner force, how many people would it take to succeed by devouring it? Although Fong Qingshan didn't mention names, Duan Yu knew that he was talking to him. Thinking about it, he felt that it made sense, but he still couldn't understand it. Then, this is the result of my master's lifetime of cultivation, Fong Qingshan explained. The reason for this was that this kid was not only one of the protagonists, but also the prince of Dali's Duan family, the future emperor. Fong Qingshan wanted to subdue him, so naturally, he couldn't let him misunderstand him. So that's how it is. It seems that Duan Yu misunderstood young master. Duan Yu had some scholarly spirit. Right was right, wrong was wrong, and quickly got up to apologize. Forget it. Fong Qingshan waved his hand, indicating that he didn't care. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Fong Qingshan fulfilled his promise and took a bite to a secluded place and taught her the water rippling subtle steps. Although Abai was not as famous as Wang Yuyin, a Zhu, and a Z, her talent was not bad. After walking with Fong Qingshan a few times, she remembered the wave-like subtle steps. At first, she stumbled intermittently, but she didn't give up. After Fong Qingshan's guidance from time to time, after 2 hours, she saw a girl in white. Her figure was floating like a fairy, and her feet were using the mysterious steps, but she had entered the door. Just as Fong Qingshan was teaching about martial arts, Jiumaji, who had returned to the room, felt upset. The unique skills of Tantra were not practiced by their own people, but they were carried forward in the hands of outsiders. Thinking of what Fong Qingshan said today, Jiumaji suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Using internal force to help the dragon elephant, it turns out that it can be like this, it turns out that it can be like this, ha, 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 ha. Jiumaji seemed to be enlightened, and suddenly he was enlightened. He looked up to the sky and laughed, and the depression of the past few days was swept away. Fong Qingshan, Abai, a Zhu, Duan Yu, and others were shocked by Jiumaji's neurotic laughter. but for some reason, they didn't care. But they didn't know that with Fang Qingshan's idea, Jiumaji had already thought of a way to solve the hidden danger of his internal force. Since he had to disperse his internal force, instead of wasting it, it was better to help the practice of the dragon-elephant prajna art. Maybe in the future, he would become the most powerful person in the Tantra sect who practiced this art. Chapter 39. Visualizing the Dragon Elephant. In Fang Qingshan's mind, a creature that seemed to only exist in legends was clearly visible. Although he didn't have a visualization diagram, nor had he seen the dragon elephant with his own eyes, so the shape of the dragon elephant wasn't clear. However, its limbs were as thick as the pillars of the sky, its nose was like a dragon coming out of the sea, its shining fangs, and its dazzling dragon scales all showed its extraordinariness. Especially after Fang Qingshan completed the first and second level of the dragon elephant prajna art, the originally empty eyes of the dragon elephant gradually showed a trace of vitality, although it was still indiscernible. However, this was a qualitative change. The visualization diagram wasn't just about the shape, but also the spirit. In his mind, the dracophant was like a divine needle that stabilized the sea, suppressing the surroundings. Strands of ancient aura spread out, and with a single breath, the dracophant energy in his body became even purer and more agile. Fang Qingshan was immersed in cultivation, so he didn't notice that as the dragon-elephant true qi flowed through his meridians, flesh and bones, wisps of pale, golden airflow rippled, filling every inch of his body, faintly emitting a trace of ancient and overbearing qi. There was another sound of spring thunder, which seemed to be mixed with the roars of tigers and leopards. Tiger-leopard thunder sound. This was a very profound, refining method which could refine many parts of the body that were not easy to refine and easily overlooked. For a moment, Fang Qingshan's whole body was like a piece of stubborn iron, being hammered, chiseled, and tempered into steel. The flowers withered, and the spring turned red. It was too hasty, but the cold rain came in the morning and the wind in the evening. When Fang Qingshan came to Taihu Lake, it was still March, but now it was already past the season of grass and birds flying, and the season of endless green lotus leaves. 3 months. Yes, Fang Qingshan had stayed in Lake Tai for 3 whole months. Including the time when he started, it had been nearly 4 months. However, he had gained a lot from this trip. In 3 months, Fang Qingshan broke through 2 levels and pushed the dragon elephant prajna art to the 4th level, which was a little earlier than expected. In the past 3 months, apart from eating, drinking, and going to the toilet, Fang Qingshan had even replaced his sleep with meditation. In the end, Fang Qingshan had practically integrated the dragon elephant prajna art into his daily life. The reason for this was that he had obtained the essence of the dragon elephant. Although the visualization diagram of the 4th level of the dragon elephant prajna art was still simple and crude, it already possessed a trace of charm. Fang Qingshan grasped this trace of charm and integrated it into his body. At a glance, his qi and blood were vigorous, like a dragon and an elephant, giving people a sense of majesty and dominance of the dragon elephant. Of course, the more you gain, the more you lose. Fang Qingshan's dragon elephant prajna art progressed rapidly. Naturally, the consumption of the dark North Divine art was also huge. The cultivation of the 4th layer actually consumed 7 years of power, and this was the essence of the spirit medicine that he had swallowed in his body for more than 10 years. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to cultivate this technique and how many resources it needed to consume. Even so, Fang Qingshan did not regret it at all. He was even very satisfied with his decision. Although he had only completed the 4th level of the dragon elephant prajna art, Fang Qingshan knew that even if he didn't use his inner force, he wouldn't be any weaker than Duan Jingshun or the monks of the Heavenly Dragon Temple, even if he didn't fight against an expert like Jiumaji. After cultivating to this point, Fang Qingshan came out because he knew that if he wanted to make another breakthrough, it would not be achieved in a short period of time. Besides, the matter of Wu Yazi had not been solved yet. After being out for so long, it was time for him to go back. He thought that Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui should have already finished the preparation work. However, his good mood completely dissipated with the appearance of Jiumaji. Although Duan Yu's cultivation was high, his vision was not good. Although a Zhu and a Bai were intelligent, their skills were not enough. However, Fang Qingshan could see at a glance that Jiumaji's inner force cultivation had decreased, but his qi and blood were like a rainbow, like a Buddhist guardian. Seeing that Fang Qingshan's expression gradually became serious, a Zhu, a Bai, Duan Yu, and the others who were very happy gradually quieted down. A depressing atmosphere instantly swept through the audience. Because of Jiumaji's previous behavior, Fang Qingshan not only extorted 2 more unique skills, but also planned to use Jiumaji's inner force to help Wu Yazi. He did not know that after 3 months of seclusion, when he came out, he found that Jiumaji was actually using his inner force to cultivate the dragon elephant prajna art. This made Fang Qingshan, who had long regarded Jiumaji's inner force as his own, unable to bear it. Fortunately, although Jiumaji began to cultivate according to his own method, the time was short, and he did not use much inner force. Jiumaji felt a flash of coldness in Fang Qingshan's eyes, and his heart skipped a beat. He did not know when he had made a mistake, so he said, "Young Master Fang Yu, Master, do you know what Qingshan was going to do with you?" Fang Qingshan asked. "Oh, I would like to hear the details." Jiumaji was also a little dissatisfied. He had already fulfilled all the conditions, but Fang Qingshan did not keep his promise to remove the shackles of the life-death note for him. "If it was like in the beginning, I was just making a deal with you," Fang Qingshan said lightly. "However, you did not follow the rules, which broke the bottom line of Qingshan. Therefore, not only did I ask for 2 more unique skills, but I was also going to destroy your inner force. First, to atone for your sins, and second, to completely solve the hidden danger in your body." This, Jiumaji could not help but feel a chill in his heart. He did not expect that after he agreed to Fang Qingshan's conditions, Fang Qingshan would not let him go. Jiumaji, who was very happy because he had found another way out, suddenly became silent. "Then why didn't you do it after waiting for a few months?" Abai asked curiously. "Master has cultivated for dozens of years, and your inner force is rare in the world." Fang Qingshan explained with a smile. "Wouldn't it be a waste to destroy your inner force? Then, do you have other ideas?" A Zhu also asked with a hint of curiosity. "My master passed his inner force to me, and we are looking for a way to cure him." Fang Qingshan explained. "So, I am going to use your inner force as an elixir to save my master." He. Hearing this, Jiumaji could not help but smile in despair. "I did not expect that in the end, I would become someone else's sacrifice." The helplessness, confusion, and despair in his voice could make anyone who heard it cry. In this regard, Fang Qingshan did not have the slightest bit of sympathy. If he had lost before, Jiumaji would not have dealt with him easily, and he would not have shown any mercy. If Duan Yu was not the protagonist and was captured by Jiumaji as a living sacrifice, would Murong Bo have a good ending? Therefore, Fang Qingshan decisively shook his head at Abai, who wanted to say something but hesitated. Chapter 40. While Fang Qingshan was cultivating the dragon elephant prajna art in Lake Tai, the Jianghu was in turmoil. The first was from Dali. Someone saw a little girl rushing into the palace of the Duan family. She was invincible, and the Duan family had no chance to fight back. Even the old monk from the Sky Dragon Temple couldn't change the result, and the solitary sun finger was snatched away. However, the Duan family of Dali neither refuted nor admitted this. They didn't refute it because the commotion was so big that it couldn't be suppressed. There was no use in refuting it, and it would only make them look petty and guilty. It was reasonable for them to refuse to admit it. The Duan clan of Dali suppressed Tianan. Not only was it a nation, but it was also famous in the Jianghu. They were attacked in their home, yet they were powerless to resist. Even the solitary sun finger was taken away. How could they have the face to admit it? Although it was just burying one's head, at least there was a cover. Other than that, there was the Xing Linzi incident. The leader of the world's #1 beggar sect, Qiao Feng, was exposed to be a chitin, and he was kicked out of the beggar sect. Then there was the news of Qiao Feng killing his father and master. He was so evil that he went from being a respected hero to a street rat. Then there was the news that many famous people in the Jianghu died because of their famous skills. The spearhead was still pointed at the Murong family of Gusu, so Murong Fu had to hide everywhere. The only good news was that the perverts, thieves, and villains in the Jianghu were in bad luck. Xixia, the 36 caves, and the 72 islands all took action to suppress the evil forces and purify the Jianghu. The entire Jianghu seemed to have become clean. Ding Xuanxiu, the 4 villains who could stop children from crying, and so on didn't escape this purification operation. Many people said that they were all caught in the net of the law. Fang Qingshan and the others had just walked out of Lake Tai when they heard the shocking news. The enemy of Yama, Miracle Dr. Shui, had cooperated with the Yu duo to send out hero invitations at the virtuous manor to deal with Qiao Feng. Zhu didn't show up because of him, and Fang Qingshan didn't know if Qiao Feng would show up this time. What? Someone broke into the Dali Imperial Palace, and even the elders of the Heavenly Dragon Temple couldn't stop him. And the one sun finger was even stolen? Duan Yu was extremely anxious when he heard this news. Although he didn't really care about martial arts, after being kidnapped by the 4 evildoers in Jiumaji, he still felt the disadvantages of being powerless. The scholarly spirit in his heart wasn't as strong as it used to be. Moreover, no matter how ignorant he was, he knew what the one sun finger meant to the Duan family of Dali. Now that it had been snatched away in front of everyone, not only did he lose the martial art he had passed down, he had also lost his face. If a tree doesn't care about its bark, it will definitely die. If a man doesn't care about his face, he will be invincible. Even so, in order to establish a foothold in the world, one needed not only martial arts, but also moral character. Sometimes face was also extremely important. The Shaolin Temple was renowned all over the world. After Xianxi's scandal was exposed at the Heroes' Assembly, they had no choice but to seal themselves off from the world. Not to mention that they would not be able to recover from the setback for at least 100 years until the end of the Southern Song dynasty. They would not be able to take over the Jianghu again. If even the Shaolin Temple was like this, then the Duan family of Dali was even more so. Moreover, it was not only a martial arts family, but also a country. Thinking of this, Duan Yu was angry and anxious, and wanted to return to Dali. You don't have to go back. Fang Qingshan shook his head when he saw this. What's the use of you going back? In terms of martial arts, although you are powerful, you are sometimes not. The most critical moment is when you drop the ball. It doesn't matter whether you go or not. Besides, you are just a crown prince now. The general direction is handled by your uncle and others. You can't intervene, so you don't have to go back and cause trouble. After listening to Fang Qingshan's words, although he knew that it was the truth, anyone would feel embarrassed. Duan Yu was no exception and couldn't speak. Young master, seeing this, Abai couldn't help but pull Fang Qingshan's sleeve. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan smiled at her. If you want to know who did it, come with me. Young master Fang knows who did it? Duan Yu asked eagerly. What do you think? Fang Qingshan didn't answer, but didn't wait for Duan Yu to answer and didn't tease him anymore. He explained lightly. The person who snatched the solitary sun finger was my great-uncle Wu Xingyan, and I asked him to do it. What? Why? Fang Qingshan's words suddenly shocked the 3 people, and even Jiumaji was very puzzled. Although the solitary sun finger was powerful, with the martial arts of the carefree sect, it was obvious that they didn't care about it. So why did they snatch it with great fanfare? The solitary sun finger is not only a superior offensive skill, but also a unique skill for healing. Fang Qingshan explained, because my master passed all his skills to me, he was like a lamp running out of oil, so he needed this skill to save his life. Don't worry, there are many martial arts in the carefree sect that are not inferior to the 6-pulse magical sword, so you don't have to worry about anything else. Saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Moreover, the northern underworld divine skill you practice is my master's unique skill. Now I want to borrow your solitary sun finger to save my life. I hope you won't mind." After hearing Fong Qingshan's words, Duan Yu was, after all, a kind-hearted person, although he was still uncomfortable with the idea of forcefully snatching it. As Fong Qingshan had said, he had cultivated Duan Yu's martial arts, and Duan Yu had snatched it to save his life, not to ruin his future. At this time, Xuanhua doesn't go back to beating Drum Mountain. Instead, he is holding the Hero Conference. What does he want? After a brief explanation, Fong Qingshan didn't feel conflicted anymore. He frowned and thought of another problem. He originally planned to go back to beating Drum Mountain, but after thinking about it, he decided to go to the Virtuous Manor. Because of him, the butterfly's wings had flashed. Last time, Xuanhua was fine, but this time, it might not be the same. After all, Xuanhua was his martial nephew. Since Fong Qingshan knew that the Virtuous Manor was in danger, he couldn't just stand by and watch. "Let's go to the Virtuous Manor," Fong Qingshan said. "Ah, young master won't go to beating Drum Mountain?" Abai asked. "First, we will go to the Virtuous Manor to see what Xuanhua is doing, and then we will go back together." Seeing Abai had some doubts, he couldn't help but explain. "Xuanhua and your master Kong Guangling are fellow disciples, so he is your martial uncle. Duan you like to join in on the fun the most." Otherwise, when he was still a greenhorn and had no martial arts, he still had to go to the Limitless Sword sect to watch the fun. Naturally, he was in favor of Fong Qingshan's decision. As for Zhu, she originally wanted to find the young master Murong Fu, but the world was boundless, and there was nowhere to find, so she could only follow Fong Qingshan. As for Jiumaji, since Fong Qingshan said the result of his punishment, that he was not allowed to practice the dragon elephant prajna art with his internal strength, he was silent, as if he was practicing silent meditation. He was not qualified to question Fong Qingshan's decision. Chapter 41. Virtuous Manor. With the distribution of hero invitations, the place became more lively day by day. Forget about the two heroes of the Yu family, Xuanhua, although he did not know whether it was because of his talent or because Su Xing'a did not teach him. His martial arts were sparse and ordinary, but his medical skills were passed down from the Carefree sect. In Jianghu, there were only wrong names, but there were no wrong nicknames. He was known as the enemy of Yama, and it was definitely not an undeserved reputation. Although his martial arts were not high, his reputation in Jianghu was comparable to that of the head of a big sect. Even the abbot of Shaolin was not as popular as him. After all, in Jianghu, how could one not be stabbed? After being stabbed, if one wanted to live, a doctor who could heal the dead was the key. So almost no one in Jianghu was willing to be his enemy. It was precisely because of this that the hero invitations he sent out in his name to deal with Xiaofeng, who had a terrible reputation. For a time, hundreds of people responded to his call and followed him like a shadow. The heroes of the martial arts world from all over the world, from the 3 mountains and 5 peaks, rushed over to help. When Fong Qingshan brought Duan Yu, Jiumaji, and the others to the Virtuous Gathering Manor, it was already overcrowded. There were people who sincerely wanted to help the people, and there were also people who wanted to give face to Xuanhua, or fish in troubled waters. At this moment, there was a mix of good and bad people. "You guys, I wonder if you can let us see your hero invitations." Before Fong Qingshan and a few people reached the door, they were stopped. No one knew whether it was because of the extraordinary temperament of Fong Qingshan and the others, or because the owner of Virtuous Manor was good at controlling people. "We don't have hero invitations." Fong Qingshan shook his head. "Hey, if you don't have hero invitations, why did you come to Virtuous Manor pretending?" That's right. Your hair is not even fully grown, yet you want to imitate others. But the 2 girls beside him are beautiful. If you get them on the bed, It was not only heroes who came to Virtuous Manor. There were also people who came to join in the fun. When they saw that Fong Qingshan and the others could not enter, they could not help but sneer, especially at a Zhu and a Bai. They let out an indescribable laugh. Courting death. They insulted a Bai in front of him. Fong Qingshan immediately snorted coldly. Without saying a word, he raised his hand and slashed over. Immediately, the perverted guy knocked into a group of people and sent them flying. He vomited blood. Although Fong Qingshan didn't kill him, he still taught him a big lesson. It was as if the pause button had been pressed. 3 seconds later, there was an uproar. They didn't expect Fong Qingshan to have such a cultivation base at such a young age. Even from such a distance, he was able to injure Fong Qingshan and not kill him. Their eyes were filled with awe. This lowly one had eyes, but failed to recognize a precious gem. I didn't expect young master to be so powerful. I think he's not much weaker than Murong of the south and Xiaofeng of the north. Please, please. On the other hand, the eyes of the disciple in charge of receiving the guest lit up. Even though his attitude didn't change from arrogance to deference, it was still much better than before. No need. Fong Qingshan shook his head and said, I'm here to look for someone. Help me pass a message to Xuemuhua that a fellow disciple is here to visit. Thank you, Miracle Dr. Xue, for your help. Otherwise, the virtuous manor wouldn't be as grand as it is today. The duo thanked Xuemuhua with tears of gratitude. They were self-aware. If it wasn't for Xuemuhua's name, they wouldn't have been able to gather so many heroes with a single call. Not at all. Punishing the evil, promoting the good, and helping the needy is the duty of us Jianghu people. Xuemuhua touched his beard and said humbly, the reason why all the heroes were willing to come is because of Xiaofeng's crimes. It's not Muhua's credit alone. Miracle Dr. Xue, you're too humble. Yu Ju waved his hand and said, Xiaofeng might be guilty of many crimes, but we also know our limits. No matter what, we have to thank you, Miracle Doctor. You're right, second brother. Yu Ji agreed and changed the topic. With so many heroes gathered here today, we'll definitely make sure that Chitin Bastard doesn't return. Just as they were talking passionately, a series of footsteps could be heard. Following that, a person who looked like a butler walked in with a doorman. Greetings to the two manor masters. Greetings to Miracle Dr. Xue. The butler and the doorman greeted. What's wrong? Yu Ji asked. It's like this. There are 2 men, 2 women, and a monk outside the manor. They say that they're from the same sect as Miracle Dr. Xue. The butler replied, What? Same sect? Xuemuhua was delighted at first, but he couldn't help but frown. He originally thought that it was his senior and junior brothers who had arrived, but on second thought they should all be on Mount Drum Beating Mountain. If it wasn't for Xiao Feng, that bastard, he would have left long ago. Why would he still stay here? Tell me, what do they look like? Xuemuhua asked. The 2 young masters are handsome, and the 2 women are also the best in the world. Especially the young master who is leading the group. His skills are unfathomable. With a palm strike in the air, he injured a person 10 meters away and didn't die. At this moment, the doorman opened his mouth and vividly recounted what happened in front of the manor. The Yu duo and Xuemuhua couldn't help but be shocked. Even though it wasn't easy to determine the location by listening, it wasn't difficult either. However, the palm strike was 10 meters away from the body, and it was still able to injure someone without dying. He had such a good grasp of propriety. This was a little sensational. Could it be that Nan Morong has arrived? Yu Ji guessed. Looking at the world, he really couldn't think of anyone else who had such skills and was elegant and unrestrained besides Nan Morong. No, if it was Nan Morong, why would he say that he's from the same sect as me? Xuemuhua shook his head and denied. When the duo heard this, they secretly nodded their heads. Gusa's Murong clan was not only famous for giving others a taste of their own medicine, but it was also not a secret even though the name of the water-dispensing pavilion wasn't known by everyone. If Xuemuhua and Nan Murong were really from the same sect, why would he need to collect all kinds of martial arts while saving people? Could it be him? At this moment, a thought flashed in Xuemuhua's mind, and he cried out in surprise. Xuemuhua couldn't think of anyone else other than her youngest martial uncle, who had just been taken in by her grandmaster, who was young and had such a high cultivation base. Miracle Dr. Xue, do you know who's coming? Yu Ji asked curiously. If I'm not wrong, it should be my young uncle master, Xuemuhua said with a face full of joy. If it's really him, Xiao Feng, that bastard, really won't be able to return today. He had heard from his master that the young uncle master had inherited the grandmaster's skills and was unfathomable. Even his master was far from being a match for him, and even the Grandmaster would find it difficult to take him down. When he thought of this, Shuemuhua didn't stop for a moment and ran straight to the gate of the manor. When the duo saw this, they looked at each other and saw curiosity and surprise in each other's eyes. Without thinking much, they also followed Shuemuhua out. They wanted to see what kind of person this young Uncle Master of Miracle Dr. Shui was to actually give him such confidence. Chapter 42. Outside the Sage Gathering Manor, a strange atmosphere enveloped the entire manor. Naturally, Feng Qingshan and the others were not affected in the slightest. The other bystanders, on the other hand, glanced at them from time to time with concern and whispered to each other about the identity of this group of people, until a figure ran out of the Sage Gathering Manor and went straight to Feng Qingshan and the others. "Is it Uncle Master who has graced us with his presence? Shuemuhua greets you." Looking at Feng Qingshan's appearance, combining it with the description of her teacher and the description of the doorman, Shuemuhua immediately confirmed Feng Qingshan's identity. "Forget it. I'm sorry to disturb you so abruptly." Feng Qingshan flicked his sleeves slightly and lifted Shuemuhua up with a gust of internal energy. Seeing is believing. Shuemuhua couldn't help but be more respectful towards him. At this moment, the crowd that was afraid of Feng Qingshan's reputation could not help but be in an uproar. What they did not expect was that Feng Qingshan was actually Shuemuhua's Uncle Master. This was out of everyone's expectations. "Uncle Master, it is Muhua's honor to have Uncle Master here." Shuemuhua's attitude was very humble. This was not only because Feng Qingshan was her Uncle Master and had profound skills. It was also because of Feng Qingshan's appearance that they were once again accepted by Su Xinghe. This was a great kindness. "Uncle Master, this is not the place to talk. Let's go in and talk." Shuemuhua invited respectfully. Yes, young Master is Miracle Dr. Shui's Uncle Master and is one of us. Please forgive us for not going out to welcome you." The duo also invited, "Young Master, you've come from afar. Please come into the manor and let us brothers do our duty as hosts." "There's no need." Feng Qingshan waved his hand. "I still have important matters to attend to. I came here to take Shuemuhua away." As soon as he said that, the duo's expressions immediately turned ugly. As the hosts, they had warmly invited Shuemuhua, but not only did they get snubbed, Feng Qingshan actually wanted to take Shuemuhua away. It was simply preposterous. It should be known that the reason why so many martial arts heroes had gathered at the Sage Gathering Manor was mostly because of Shuemuhua. If Shuemuhua left, would the meeting still be held? Could that evil Qiao Feng still be eliminated? However, Feng Qingshan was Shuemuhua's martial uncle. The two of them could not say it directly, so they endured it. "Martial uncle, where are you taking Muhua?" "Muhua has something important to do right now." After listening to Feng Qingshan's words, Shuemuhua couldn't help but frown. "Where are we going?" "Of course it's to return to your martial ancestor's place." Feng Qingshan spoke neither too fast nor too slow. "As for the important matter you spoke of, it should be dealing with Qiao Feng, right? You really are a busybody. Moreover, do you think that just the two of you can deal with him?" Shuemuhua didn't say anything, but the duo couldn't take it anymore. They looked at Feng Qingshan coldly. "Seeing that you are Miracle Dr. Shui's martial uncle, we were very respectful to you. Who knew that you would be such a coward? Qiao Feng is a chitin dog. We have gathered all the heroes in the world to suppress him. This is a righteous cause. Even if we die 9 times, we won't regret it. You actually said that we are a busybody. This is simply preposterous. Where do you place all the heroes in the world with your words? As for how we can deal with Qiao Feng, that dog, does he have 3 heads and 6 arms? Although his martial arts are high, even ants can bite an elephant to death. As long as we advance wave after wave, as long as he arrives today, he won't be able to escape even if he has wings." "Good." The duo spoke with righteousness and righteousness. Their impassioned speech immediately caused a wave of applause. Jiang Hu wasn't just about repaying kindness and enmity. It wasn't just about eating meat and drinking wine. Wuxia, wuxia, there was martial arts and there was chivalry. That was why there was a leader who waved his arm and attacked Xiao Yuanshan at Yanmen Pass. There was Guo Jing and Huang Rong who were stationed in Xiangyang to live and die with the city. There was the Ming cult who drove out the Tartars. There was looking at the excited crowd. Fang Qingshan couldn't help but feel enlightened. He almost felt his blood boil. However, he was still a cultivator in the age of chaos. He was also a passerby who could cross the heavens. He didn't mind doing chivalry to help the weak, but that was only because he felt like it. He would never abandon them for the sake of justice. Moreover, Qiao Feng wasn't an evil thief. He was a man of great benevolence and righteousness. He was a man of great wisdom and courage. Just like how Guo Jing abandoned the Golden Knife Prince Consort and guarded Xiangyang for more than 10 years. But the Tartars were outside the city. Qiao Feng also abandoned the king of the southern courtyard. In the midst of tens of thousands of soldiers, he captured the king of the Khitan kingdom, put an end to the chaos of war, and splashed blood on Yanmen Pass. Although Fang Qingshan didn't necessarily agree with their actions, it didn't stop him from admiring them. If this matter didn't concern him, it wouldn't have mattered. However, Xue Muhua was his martial nephew. Xiao Feng's cultivation was profound. Once he fought until he forgot himself, his life would also be in danger. Therefore, Fang Qingshan wanted to take Xue Muhua away and not let him get involved in this mess. Everyone, please be quiet. That's not what my martial uncle meant. Xue Muhua was unhappy when he saw everyone looking at Fang Qingshan with contempt. However, he also knew that Fang Qingshan's words had angered everyone. He couldn't help but explain. Then he pulled Fang Qingshan to the side and said in a low voice, "Martial uncle, the reason why Muhua hasn't returned to Beating Drum Mountain at this time is because I want to capture Qiao Feng, that bastard. It can be considered as me doing my part for Grandmaster. Originally, I didn't have any confidence. Martial uncle, you came at the right time. Please help me." Hearing Xue Muhua's words, Fang Qingshan suddenly understood. He was wondering why Xue Muhua, a medical expert of the Xiaorao sect, was still in Jushin Manor instead of Beating Drum Mountain. It turned out that this was the reason. He actually wanted to use the strength of the world's heroes to capture Qiao Feng and present him to Wu Yazi as a gift. It had to be said that this was indeed a good idea. Although he was a divine doctor, he was also a member of the Xiaorao sect. He was neither good nor evil. He didn't have any psychological burden when he used the world's heroes as a chess piece. Qiao Feng's reputation was world-renowned, his skills were suitable, and he had a bad reputation. Using him as a sacrifice for Wu Yazi's recovery couldn't be more suitable. "You're considerate." Fang Qingshan nodded and praised Xue Muhua. However, before Xue Muhua could be happy, he changed the topic. "However, this action is somewhat inappropriate. Although Qiao Feng has a bad reputation now, how do you know that this is true? Is it because he's a Khitan?" Without waiting for Xue Muhua to refute, Fang Qingshan continued, "The most important thing is that you didn't estimate his strength. Although Murong Fu is mentioned in the same breath as him in Jianghu, Murong Fu is far inferior to him. Even if I personally fought him, I'm afraid that I could only maintain a stalemate." "Impossible." Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, Xue Muhua's face was full of disbelief. "Impossible? Huh? Everything is possible." Fang Qingshan couldn't help but smile faintly when he thought of the Shaolin Heroes Assembly in the future, where Qiao Feng fought against Murong Fu, Ding Xuanxiu, and Yu Tanji without being at a disadvantage. Chapter 43. Even so, with Martial Uncle here, he won't be able to escape today. Xue Muhua rolled his eyes and looked at Fang Qingshan with a smile. "I've said it before, what you see may not be true, and what you hear may not be false. Although Qiao Feng is a Khitan person, what evidence do you have to prove that he did those evil things?" Fang Qingshan shook his head and said, "Moreover, are you sure that he will come today? You should immediately return to Beating Drum Mountain with me. With Martial Uncle here, there shouldn't be a problem with the internal force. If you delay your martial ancestors' treatment, let's see how your master will deal with you." Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, Xue Muhua was immediately at a loss. After planning for so long, she was really unwilling to give up now. However, what Feng Qingshan said was not without reason. For a moment, Shuemuhua wanted to say something, but stopped. It seems that everyone is sure that Xiaofeng will come. Are you here to welcome me? At this moment, a heroic voice slowly came from afar. Then, a rough and even somewhat sloppy man slowly walked over. Okay, I can't leave now. Although Feng Qingshan said this, other than a trace of curiosity about Xiao Feng's arrival, there was no other change on his face. He went to Jiangnan to find Jiumaji to plan the dragon-elephant Prajna art. He also wanted to go to Xinglinzi to see this unparalleled hero. However, he didn't want to be delayed in Swallow's Nest for too long, so he didn't have the chance to see him. He didn't expect to see him at the Virtuous Manor. He didn't expect that without a Zhu, Xiaofeng would still come to the Virtuous Manor. It seemed that his butterfly was not powerful enough. The world still restored its historical track. In fact, the reason why Xiaofeng still came to the Virtuous Manor was because of Xiao Yuanshan's secret instigation. He originally brought his family to the Central Plains to visit relatives, but halfway through, they were ambushed by a group of so-called heroes who couldn't tell right from wrong. As a result, his family was destroyed. Xiao Yuanshan didn't die after jumping off a cliff, so his temperament was already twisted. In his opinion, regardless of whether or not Xiaofeng had killed those people, those who had died were the people who had besieged him back then. They were all people who deserved to die. A life for a life, a debt to be repaid. It was only right and proper. Now, there was a group of people who didn't know what was good for them and couldn't tell right from wrong. They obviously didn't have any evidence, but they still wanted to send out hero invitations to deal with his son, just like how they dealt with him in the past. The difference was that one was lying in ambush, while the other was attacking him head-on. It was truly intolerable. Hence, in secret, Xiao Yuanshan instigated Xiaofeng to say that someone in the Virtuous Gathering Manor knew the truth. At this time, Xiaofeng was searching for the truth everywhere, but to no avail. Knowing this news, he naturally would not let it go. Although there were many martial arts heroes gathered here. So what? Even if there were millions of people, he would still go forward. And this was exactly what Xiao Yuanshan wanted. As long as Xiaofeng went to the Virtuous Gathering Manor, how could those people from the Virtuous Gathering Manor let him go? Even if Xiaofeng didn't have the intention to start a massacre, he would still be forced into a corner in the end. Good. Xiaofeng, you can still be considered a character. You clearly know that we are discussing how to encircle you in the Virtuous Gathering Manor, but you still dare to come openly. Just because of this, after you die, we will leave your corpse intact. When the Yu Clan duo saw that Xiaofeng actually came, they were both angry and respectful in their hearts. They were angry because Xiaofeng knew that there was a tiger on the mountain, but he still went forward to the tiger's mountain. This was simply treating them as nothing. What they admired was his spirit. If others encountered such a situation, they would have already fled 1,000 miles away. But he, on the other hand, directly came to them. As long as you can let Xiaofeng find the truth, as long as you have the ability to do so, don't talk about killing me. Even if you cut me into pieces, so what? Xiaofeng said indifferently. What an arrogant and conceited person who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Xiaofeng, the kindness of your parents and master is as heavy as a mountain, but you return their kindness with enmity. Sure enough, those who are not of our clan must have different intentions. You are an ungrateful wretch. Today, you still dare to shamelessly talk about the truth. It is simply preposterous. Hearing Xiaofeng's words, Xian Nan of the Shaolin Temple was the first to be unable to bear it. After all, Xiaofeng's master, Xian Ku, was his senior brother. He had painstakingly taught Xiaofeng, but in the end, Xiaofeng suffered the consequences of his own actions. Xian Nan immediately scolded angrily. Since you dare to come today, I will make sure that you will not be able to return, as an offering to senior brother Xian Ku's soul in heaven. In an instant, the atmosphere at the scene froze, and the rhythm was brought up by Xian Nan. Originally, they were here to encircle and annihilate Xiaofeng, but at this moment, they were even more furious. They unsheathed their weapons and shouted in unison. One by one, they moved, surrounding Xiao Feng in the center, waiting for an order to attack as a group. In this regard, Xiao Feng's expression did not change in the slightest. Although there were many people in the virtuous gathering manner, they were all a group of defeated dogs. As long as he wanted to leave, no one could stop him. However, he remembered that although he was a Khitan, he grew up in the Central Plains. He was indebted to many people, so he did not want to kill too much. Therefore, he said very sincerely, "Today, I did not come to be enemies with everyone. I just want to know the truth of the Yin Men past that year, as well as the real murderer who killed my parents and master." What a glib tongue. You are the real murderer who killed your parents and master. Xian Nan said sternly, "Go kill him," avoiding the important and dwelling on the trivial, acting unscrupulously. What a good Shaolin, what a good orthodox sect, and what a good inverting of black and white. Just as Xian Nan waved his kasaya, at the critical moment, a voice rang out. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice, and it was Fang Qingshan who spoke. Xian Nan's and Xian Ji's eyes suddenly turned cold. They stared at Fang Qingshan and said slowly, "You are young. We respect you as Miracle Dr. Shue's Uncle Master, so we are tolerant of you. However, this does not mean that you can act unscrupulously and humiliate our Shaolin Temple. Previously, you spoke as if you were helping Xiao Feng, and now you are doing this. Are you in cahoots with Xiao Feng and want to stand up for him? Yes, young master, you are Miracle Dr. Shue's Uncle Master. We respect you, but this does not mean that you can invert black and white and treat the heroes here as nothing." The Yu duo, who had long disliked Fang Qingshan, also echoed, "Uncle Master." Although Xue Muhua was angry that Xian Nan and the Yu duo had jointly accused her Uncle Master, she also knew that Fang Qingshan's behavior had angered everyone. She called out in a low voice and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Fang Qingshan with a wave of his hand. His indifferent gaze swept across Xian Nan, Xian Ji, and the Yu duo. The originally expressionless Fang Qingshan smiled coldly and said, "What a good Shaolin Temple. You are either in cahoots with me or you are my enemy. Let's not talk about the fact that I am not in cahoots with Xiao Feng. Even if I am, so what?" Fang Qingshan said proudly, "This time, if you guys didn't instigate Xue Muhua to send out hero invitations, do you think I would step into the muddy water? I don't care if you guys are dead or alive. I just can't get used to some people. It was originally their own fault, but they still force others to go to Liangshan. Not only that, but they also don't let it go. They want to pin the hat on others just because of some information." Chapter 44. We're wrong? What a good reversal of right and wrong. I don't know when killing my father and master became a matter of course. Xian Nan sneered. "Miracle Dr. Xue, we came to attend the bandit killing meeting because of you. Now your uncle can't tell right from wrong and is defending Xiao Feng. Aren't you going to stop him?" After Xian Nan finished speaking, he pointed the spearhead at Xue Muhua before Fang Qingshan could speak. If it wasn't for the fact that Xue Muhua had sent out invitations to invite everyone to attend the bandit gathering, Xian Nan would have already put the blame on him. Even so, Xian Nan still hoped to damage Xue Muhua's reputation and force him to put righteousness before family. "Master Xian Nan, you've gone too far." How could Xue Muhua not hear his sinister intentions? A cold light flashed in his eyes. "It's true that Shaolin is the leader of the martial arts world, but you can't give us the title of being unable to tell right from wrong just because someone questioned us. All right, Master Xian Nan, Miracle Dr. Xue. We're gathered here today to deal with Xiao Feng, the Khitan bastard. We can't fight among ourselves and let him see us as a joke." Seeing that Xian Nan and Xue Muhua had a conflict, the Yu duo, as the host, quickly changed the topic. They turned to Xiao Feng and said, "Xiao Feng, I respect you as a man and hope that you can be sensible. Today, there are so many heroes in the martial arts world. You can't escape, or you should surrender." "Yes, Leader Xiao, don't make the same mistake again. Xiao Feng, you killed your father and master. Do you still want to be the enemy of all the heroes in the world today?" Our beggar clan is ashamed to have a leader like you. Shaolin is ashamed to have a disciple like you. For a moment, the crowd was agitated. It seemed that if Qiao Feng didn't tie his hands and allow himself to be trampled on, he would be ignorant and guilty. Seeing this, Feng Qingshan couldn't help but sneer at the corner of his mouth. When Xiao Feng heard this, his gaze swept past everyone. Many of the people here were once his good friends, and when they spoke of him, all of them would give him a thumbs up. Yet now, all of them seemed as if they wished for nothing more than to eat his flesh raw. For a time, Qiao Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Today, Qiao Feng came here with no intention of walking out alive. I just want to know who the leader of Yinmen Pass was. Master Tan, Granny Tan, Zhao Qian's son. As long as you tell me who the leader was, you can do whatever you want of me after I get my revenge. I, Qiao Feng, will never go back on my word. Qiao Feng's eyes shone as he looked at Elder Tan, and the others who had participated in the Yinmen Pass. The others still believed in Qiao Feng's promise, even though he had become a chitin traitor. Of course, the most important thing was that not all of the heroes gathered here were here for revenge and justice. Many of them were only here to give Xuemuhua some face. After all, how could one not be stabbed in the Jianghu? Giving a godly doctor some face might save one's life in the future. Moreover, they were here to make their presence known and improve their reputation. In addition, they knew Qiao Feng's cultivation level. North Qiao Feng had a great reputation. The beggar sect had become the #1 sect in the world because of him. Therefore, even though there were many people here, everyone was still a little afraid of Qiao Feng. Naturally, it was the best plan to get rid of him without fighting. Therefore, at this moment, everyone's gaze was on Elder Tan, Granny Tan, and the others. Elder Tan, Granny Tan, Zhao Qian's son, and the others looked at each other and subconsciously glanced at Xian Nan and Zhao Qian's son. They smiled bitterly and shook their heads. They said to Qiao Feng, "Leader Qiao, please forgive us for not being able to answer this question. It has been 20 years. Let bygones be bygones." Interesting. Seeing this, Feng Qingshan spoke again. Xuemuhua could not help but smile bitterly and shake her head. The evidence of what happened at Yinmen Pass is conclusive. As a son, it is only right and proper for him to avenge his parents. But you said it was bygones and let it go. Now, let's not talk about whether Qiao Feng's adoptive parents and master were killed by him or not. Even if he was, why didn't you say it was bygones and let it go? How can this be the same? Granny Tan sneered. Although what happened at Yinmen Pass was wrong, it was done with good intentions. It was for the sake of the martial arts world of the Central Plains and the country. The people we killed were chitin bastards. Now, Qiao Feng is ungrateful and killed his parents and master. What else could Feng Qingshan say about this? He shrugged and kept his mouth shut. So, it's all because I'm a chitin. Ha 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 ha. Qiao Feng laughed loudly. His voice was full of mockery and sorrow. Although Elder Tan and Granny Tan felt a little guilty, they still insisted on their own principles. Well, in that case, let's cut off all ties today. After a while, Qiao Feng calmed down and said to the Yu brothers, "If you don't mind, bring some wine." The Yu brothers looked at each other and did not say anything. They waved their hands and asked the servants to bring out the good wine. Qiao Feng stretched out his hand and used the dragon-catching hand to grab a jar of wine. He slapped it away and said to the crowd, "Since we've said so much, let's drink this wine today and cut off all ties. When we fight later, life and death will be up to fate." As soon as he finished speaking, Qiao Feng drank the wine in big mouthfuls without caring about the others' reaction. If you ride a tiger, it's hard to get off. Although some people were unwilling, they had forced Qiao Feng to this extent today, and there was no turning back. Seeing Qiao Feng finish drinking, everyone looked at each other, and those who were friends with Qiao Feng in the past all picked up a jug of wine and drained it in one gulp. Goods! After everyone drank, Qiao Feng's eyes turned red. He said with some sorrow, "Since we've spoken and drank, let's fight." As soon as he said this, Everyone knew that a fight was inevitable. They shouted in unison and took out their weapons. For a moment, there were dazzling cold lights everywhere. There were all kinds of long sabers, short swords, double axes, and single whips. Kill! Kill! After a short confrontation, Xiao Feng and the crowd shouted at the same time and attacked at the same time. Xiao Feng released his aura and waved his hand. It was not a secret skill of the beggar sect, but a common Taizu's long fist. Since he was no longer the beggar sect leader, he was too embarrassed to use the 18 dragon subduing palms. Besides, the Taizu's long fist was a basic fist skill in the hands of others, but it was no weaker than a secret skill in his hands. As long as he was not fighting against someone of the same level, he could conquer the world with the Taizu's long fist. Except for Fang Qingshan, no one here was at the same level as him. Although the 18 dragon subduing palms was powerful, the more powerful it was, the more energy it consumed. In this group fight, there were many people, so the Taizu's long fist was more suitable for a protracted fight. Chapter 45. Bang! 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 For a moment, Xiao Feng was like a tiger in a flock of sheep. His Taizu long fist was as powerful as Zhao Kuan-yin. Wherever he went, no one could defeat him. Even Xian Nan and Xian Nan of Shaolin Temple would stagger back after taking a punch from Xiao Feng, let alone the others. Although there were many people on the virtuous village's side, they were in a mess. They couldn't attack. Not only did they waste the crowd tactic, but Xiao Feng was also like a fish in water. At this moment, only Fang Qingshan's group could watch the show while eating melon seeds as bystanders. Before Xiao Feng and the others made their move, they had wisely retreated into the distance to avoid being implicated by the fire at the city gates. Xiao Feng, you're indeed better than your reputation. Fang Qingshan couldn't help but admired Xiao Feng from the bottom of his heart when he saw how effortlessly Xiao Feng fought the crowd with his Taizu long fist. Song Qingshu and Shi Huolong were also practicing the 18 dragon subduing palms, but Guo Jing was merely copying them. Great wisdom may appear foolish, but he relied on the heavenly Tao to reward the diligent. Hong Qigong relied on his talent to complete the 18 dragon subduing palms. He combined hardness and softness from the outside to the inside. Xiao Feng was the only one who could use the 18 dragon subduing palms and the founding ancestors' long fist technique. Back then, when Fang Qingshan saw this place, he could be said to be full of admiration for Xiao Feng. Now that he was there, he felt that Xiao Feng was even more superior. With Wu Yazi's 70 years of cultivation, Xiao Feng could turn something rotten into something magical. He could use Taizu's long fist, 5 tigers breaking the gate, and other martial arts to display the essence of a lost art. However, that depended on the catalysis of inner force. Xiao Feng was obviously not like that. He relied on his experience and talent. Xiao Feng of the north and Murong of the south are indeed worthy of their reputation. Even Jiu Maji, who had been silent, couldn't help but sigh. Zhu and Bai were also proud. After all, Xiao Feng was so powerful, and their master, who was as famous as him, couldn't be weak either. Xuanmuhua and Duan, you didn't know if it was true, but they also had the same feeling as Jiumaji. Only Fang Qingshan just smiled. Everyone, don't fight. This will give Xiao Feng an opportunity to take advantage of. Everyone listen to my orders. Hundreds of people surrounded Xiao Feng, but not only did they not manage to take him down with a force that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas, they even allowed him to soar like a dragon in the sea like a fish in water. At that moment, Xian Xian of Shaolin Temple could not hold back anymore. Of course, the most important thing was that he'd fought Xiao Feng before, yet he was actually not a match for Xiao Feng. This caused him to be unable to help but feel slightly discouraged, and he knew that if this were to continue, then even if all of them were to fall, they might not be able to defeat Xiao Feng today. If that was the case, then all of them would lose a great deal of face. Therefore, Xian Nan stood up and called on everyone to attack in an organized and disciplined manner. Aside from Shaolin Temple, only Beggar's Sect and Shaolin Temple had such conditions. However, aside from Xiao Feng, there was nothing else worth watching in Beggar's Sect. Besides, Beggar's Sect also had formations. But Xiao Feng was once the sect master of Beggar's Sect, so he knew everything about Beggar's Sect. If someone from Beggar's Sect was in charge, it might actually help Xiao Feng. Besides, aside from the 72 ultimate skills that Shaolin Temple was famous for, they were also unique in formations. The 18 Arhats formation and other things were all good methods to attack groups of people. As expected with Xian Nan's arrangement, everyone was organized and in batches. They attacked wave after wave. Even though Xiao Feng was still like a wolf or a tiger, everyone was no longer as one-sided as before. Xiao Feng's aggressive attacks were forcefully stopped. Oh, what a pity! Jiumaji looked at the situation on the battlefield and could not help but sigh and shake his head. Duan Yu and the others were limited by their martial arts, so they could not see it. But Fang Qingshan knew why Jiumaji said that. Even though Xiao Feng's heart had been hurt and they had broken up, he could not bear to hurt them because of their friendship over the years. So, even though he was like a tiger in a flock of sheep, he did not use all his strength. It was a pity that a man did not intend to hurt a tiger, but a tiger would harm a man. Even though he was merciful, the others would not show any mercy. Not only did they attack together, but they also used hidden weapons and all kinds of despicable methods without any scruples, as long as they could injure Xiao Feng severely. Even though he would be fine after 1 or 2 attacks, many grains of sand would make a tower, and many armpits would make a mickle. When the damage was stacked, he would be the unlucky one in the end. Xiao Feng was not a fool. Even a fool could not have such cultivation and lead the Beggar Sect to become the #1 sect in the world. He was just feeling sorry for Xiao Feng. But when he saw that he was merciful and the others wanted him dead, he finally understood and attacked without mercy. Even though Xiao Feng could make Taizu's long fist look like a unique skill, his best skill was undoubtedly the 18 dragon subduing palms. Since he did not hold back, he naturally used this martial art. The dragon fought in the wild, and its blood turned yellow. Even though Xiao Feng was injured, he was even more powerful. Especially when he used the 18 dragon subduing palms. He was like a tiger that had grown wings. The proud dragon regretted. The flying dragon flew in the sky. Seeing the dragon in the field, the goose gradually fell on the land. The hidden dragon did not need to be used for a moment. The sound of dragons could be heard, and golden dragon-shaped Jinqi raged. It was really true that if one touched it, one would die, and if one brushed against it, one would be injured. Xiao Feng was someone who could take the head of the enemy's general in the midst of an army of 10,000. Even though the virtuous village had a lot of people, compared to the army of 10,000, it was obviously a far cry, and there was no one who could restrain him. Once Xiao Feng let go, the situation immediately changed. His palms danced, and after one palm, another palm followed, the back palm pushed the front palm, and the power of several palms merged together, rushing in all directions like an avalanche. Bang! 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 Curses, cries of alarm, and warnings could be heard all at once. Blood was everywhere, and corpses were flying everywhere. In a moment, dozens of people had died in Xiao Feng's hands. Seeing this, the crowd was frightened and angry. Kill! Within these 3 people there must be friends. Xiao Feng had killed dozens of people, and naturally, there were his friends and relatives present. Seeing this scene, how could they not be angry and want to eat his flesh? Without saying anything, this group of people directly attacked Xiao Feng. They all knew that they were definitely not Xiao Feng's opponent, but in their hearts, even if they died, they wanted to bite off a piece of flesh, so they had the momentum of a desperate army that would definitely win. Unfortunately, they wanted to kill, but they had no power to reverse the situation. Even though their courage was commendable, in the end, they still overestimated themselves. Once Xiao Feng started killing, how could he still hold back? During this period of time, he had suffered all kinds of pain, and at this moment, he displayed them with his fist technique. For a moment, the entrance of the virtuous village could not help but become a meat grinder. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. Heads rolled everywhere, and only the screams of death could be heard. The people of Jianghu were used to living on the edge of a knife, and they were used to seeing all kinds of killing, but there were very few people who had seen such a tragic scene, and for a moment, they could not help but feel sad. Chapter 46. Miracle Dr. Shui, we came because of you. Now that we have suffered heavy casualties, aren't you going to do something for us? Xiao Feng's eyes were bloodshot, and he attacked like a madman. Those who were on good terms with him were either seriously injured or killed. Even those who were on good terms with him were merciless. In an instant, blood flowed like a river, and corpses were strewn all over the place. Some of them had their blood splattered, and some of them had their stomachs cut open. The scene was too horrible to look at. Many people who were only here to watch the show immediately retreated. It was just that Buddha fought for a stick of incense, and people fought for a breath of pride. Although they were afraid of death, their dignity was equally important. If they left with their tails between their legs, not only would their previous plan fail, but they would also be laughed at by others. Therefore, everyone thought of Shui Muhua at this time. Many people came because of his reputation. Now that everyone had paid such a high price, there was no reason for him to stay out of it. Of course, other than this reason, they pointed their spear at Shui Muhua. More importantly, it was because of Fang Qingshan. The drunkard's intention was not the wine. The move that Fang Qingshan showed at the entrance of the manor had already spread when he was in conflict with Xian Nan of Shaolin Temple. Seeing was believing. Because of Xiao Feng's reputation, everyone thought highly of him. Therefore, hundreds of people did not follow the rules and besieged him. Little did they know that they had overestimated themselves and underestimated Xiao Feng. Those who had never faced Xiao Feng would not know how scary he was when he was serious. Although Xiao Feng was strong when he used Taizu's long fist, he was still holding back. Although no one was his match, they did not have to worry about their lives. Therefore, they were not afraid. However, Xiao Feng, who was equipped with the 18 dragon subduing palms, was completely different. Even a so-called eminent monk like Xian Nan had committed murder and arson. However, Xiao Feng, who was like a mad tiger or a ghost, randomly chopping and killing, madly charging and attacking, was enough to make people tremble with fear. When they could not take down Xiao Feng and were about to lose their lives if they were not careful, they finally remembered that there was another expert present. Therefore, someone tried to trick Shui Muhua. Previously, because of Shaolin Temple, no one spoke, but now that their lives were at stake, they had to ask for Fang Qingshan's help. They all knew that although Shui Muhua's medical skills were superb, and she dared to snatch people away from the King of Hell, her martial arts skills were ordinary. At this time, the only way was to seek help from his junior martial uncle, who was highly skilled in martial arts. Uncle Master, Shui Muhua looked at Fang Qingshan helplessly when she heard everyone's words. She was speechless. Although Shui Muhua disliked the fact that Shaolin Temple had humiliated her martial uncle, none of these people had stood up to speak up for her. At this moment, when she saw Xiao Feng killing in all directions, she felt extremely delighted. However, if he was alone, it would be fine. After all, his martial arts were weak. However, he had his Uncle Master. These people would more or less give him face. Although he used them as weapons, he had no choice but to ask for help from his Uncle Master. It was fine if he was powerless, but if he didn't help when he had a way, then his name in Jianghu would be ruined. Forget it. You don't have to look so pitiful. Fang Qingshan waved his hand. After all, Shui Muhua had good intentions. As her martial uncle, he naturally couldn't just stand by and watch. Moreover, seeing Xiao Feng attack with all his might, not to mention Fang Qingshan, even Jiumaji was eager to give it a try. It was hard to find a worthy opponent. Move aside, let me do it. Since he had promised Shui Muhua, Fang Qingshan naturally wouldn't delay. He shouted and raised his hand to perform a cloud hand, pushing away the people surrounding Xiao Feng. Fang Qingshan used wave-like, subtle steps. It seemed like he wasn't too fast, but he was actually as fast as a ghost. In an instant, he arrived in front of Xiao Feng. Ha! Fang Qingshan didn't hide his attack. Not only did he shout, but he also released his aura. Therefore, when he arrived, Xiao Feng noticed it. Although Xiao Feng's eyes were bloodshot, he didn't lose his mind. However, since these people wanted his life, he naturally wouldn't stretch his neck and let them kill him. However, Feng Qingshan was different. Not only was he the only one who spoke up for him, but Xiao Feng actually felt a trace of threat from him. Therefore, when Feng Qingshan appeared, Xiao Feng stopped his attack. "Mister, you also want to intervene?" Xiao Feng asked in a deep voice. "I have no choice. People in Jianghu can't help themselves." Feng Qingshan chuckled and said, "Although I don't like these people who have eyes but can't see. After all, they came for Shuemuhua. Seeing them sacrifice in vain, I can't be indifferent." After a pause, he said, "It's hard to find a bosom friend, and it's hard to find a worthy opponent." Seeing gang leader Qiao so heroic, Qingshan can't help but feel a little itchy. Almsgiver, Xiao Feng has committed a heinous crime. Not only did he kill his father and master, but he also cruelly killed his fellow martial artists. Almsgiver, please cooperate with us and bring him to justice to comfort the souls of the martial artists in heaven. Seeing Feng Qingshan make a move, Xian Nan spoke again. "Yes, kill Xiao Feng. Kill Xiao Feng and get rid of evil for the martial arts world. Kill him." Xian Nan's words immediately brought a wave of rhythm. Everyone wanted to eat Xiao Feng's flesh and sleep on his skin. As for Feng Qingshan, he was also kidnapped by morality. If he didn't make a move or deliberately let Xiao Feng go, he would obviously become the enemy of everyone present. Ha! Feng Qingshan looked at Xian Nan with a faint smile, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and he said lightly, "What if I don't cooperate?" "I'm giving you face, but you don't want it. Do we need your Shaolin Temple to tell us what to do?" What a big face. Feng Qingshan had long disliked the Shaolin monks. They didn't have much ability, but they always stood on the moral high ground to criticize others. Once they became enemies, they would be taken advantage of. Seeing that Feng Qingshan suddenly became hostile, Xian Nan suddenly choked and blushed, not knowing whether it was because of shame or because of his previous injury. Miracle Dr. Shui, do you also have the same intention? He couldn't win against Feng Qingshan, so he immediately pointed the spearhead at Shuemuhua. My martial uncle is right. The Shaolin Temple Grandmasters are too nosy. Shuemuhua naturally stood on Feng Qingshan's side without hesitation. She said sarcastically, "I didn't send my hero invitation to my uncle. He was willing to help because he cherished the younger generation, and it was his duty to refuse. I would like to ask, Shaolin is the leader of the world, but you can't even deal with Xiao Feng, causing many martial artists to lose their lives. I wonder if you have any explanation for this? I've long heard of the great name of North Xiao Feng, and today I see that you are indeed worthy of your reputation. I'm Feng Qingshan, and I've admired you for a long time. Today, I happen to meet you, so I can try the beggar sect's 18 dragon subduing palms." Ignoring the wrangling between the Shaolin monks and Shuemuhua, Feng Qingshan cupped his hands and said to Xiao Feng, "It has nothing to do with winning or losing, and it has nothing to do with reputation. I only want a hearty battle." Chapter 47. All right, please. After listening to Feng Qingshan's words, Xiao Feng did not suspect that he had other motives, because there was no need. Xiao Feng was a person who did not bother with trifles, and was a bold and generous person. Adding on to the fact that Feng Qingshan had spoken up for justice before, he felt a great sense of sympathy for him. A bosom friend was hard to find, and a worthy opponent was hard to find. When one's martial arts reached Xiao Feng's level, almost all of them were martial arts fanatics. Only by being sincere in martial arts could they obtain corresponding achievements. Otherwise, it would be a waste of their talent. Please. Feng Qingshan did not rush to make the first move. After all, he was already taking advantage of Xiao Feng by making a move now. Although he was getting more and more courageous as the battle went on, he had still exhausted his physical strength, internal energy, and mental energy. Seeing this, Xiao Feng secretly nodded his head. Without saying anything, he raised his hand and slapped at Feng Qingshan. Fang Qingshan naturally did not have any reason to dodge. Facing Xiao Feng's palm, he also slapped at him. Bang! Bang! Two muffled sounds like muffled thunder resounded. Both Fang Qingshan and Xiao Feng's bodies swayed, but they quickly recovered. Looking at each other, their faces became even more solemn. Although Xiao Feng had felt a trace of threat from Fang Qingshan earlier, and Fang Qingshan had also seen Xiao Feng's mighty and domineering aura, it was only a visual change in the end. Until just now, when the two of them tested each other's palms, only then did they realize that the other's strength was above their expectations. Alright, be careful. Facing Xian Nan's group, Xiao Feng, who was already impatient, looked at Fang Qingshan with a flash in his eyes and reminded him. His left leg was slightly bent, his right arm was bent inward, his right palm drew a circle, and with a whoosh he pushed it outwards. Innate heaven defying, acquired heaven defying. The 18 dragon subduing palms were somewhat similar to the 9 strategies beyond the swords. They both emphasized on anticipating the enemy's first move. The only difference was that one focused on being firm and fierce, and one focused on breaking. The current 18 dragon subduing palms was also somewhat different from the 18 dragon subduing palms that Hong Qigong used later on. Later on, because of the 18 dragon subduing palms, the inheritance of the last 3 palms was lost, and Hong Qigong relied on his own innate talent to complete the 18 dragon subduing palms. But at that time, although the 18 dragon subduing palms was still the world's #1 yang palm technique, it had taken the path of extreme yang, giving birth to yin, a combination of hardness and softness. Yet at this moment, the 18 dragon subduing palms in Xiao Feng's hands were extremely firm and ferocious. Good timing. When he saw Xiao Feng's arrogant dragon show's remorse, and the force of his palm was like a torrential flood that could topple mountains and overturn the seas as it poured down toward him. Fang Qingshan took a light breath, and he didn't dodge and slapped out with his palm once more. Light and graceful, elegant and elegant. It looked like he had lifted the heavy weight with ease, but in fact, when his palm landed, a wave of heat instantly swept out, and there seemed to be a burning smell in the air. Boom! With a loud bang, the 6 solar palms of Tianshan and the 18 dragon subduing palms collided. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, causing the force of the collision to scatter in all directions, forcing Xian Nan and the others, who originally wanted to take advantage of the situation to launch a sneak attack while Xiao Feng and Fang Qingshan were busy fighting, to retreat again and again. Now, not to mention joining their battle, even watching from the sidelines would have to bear a great risk. The two of them fought palm against palm, using speed against speed, using hardness against hardness. Their force shot out in all directions, and even the aftermath was not any weaker than an ordinary expert's attack. Sand and stones were sent flying like hidden weapons. Xian Nan and the others, who had retreated to the side, couldn't help but have ugly expressions on their faces. It was fine if they weren't Xiao Feng's match earlier, but they didn't expect that it wasn't even Xiao Feng's peak state. Now, it was even a little difficult for them to watch from the sidelines. How could these people, who had always boasted about themselves as the martial arts world's famous figures, who were high and mighty, accept this? On the other hand, those who originally just wanted to make their presence known were now rejoicing. If they hadn't used words to trap Xuemuhua and let Fang Qingshan fight, if they really let Xiao Feng go all out, perhaps not even 1 out of 10 of them would be left alive. It didn't matter if the others died, but if they were unlucky, they would die unjustly. Not to mention what the others thought. Let's talk about Xiao Feng and Fang Qingshan on the battlefield. Although the 6 solar palms of Tianshan was not as fierce as the 18 dragon subduing palms, with the support of Fang Qingshan's surging internal energy, when it collided with Xiao Feng, they were evenly matched. Since Xiao Feng was born, he had fought all over the world. He had seen and fought countless experts. He didn't dare to say that he had never been defeated, but there was no one who could beat him in palm power. At this moment, when Xiao Feng saw Fang Qingshan using the 6 solar palms of Tianshan to fight with him without falling into a disadvantageous position, his competitive spirit was aroused. The moment Xiao Feng stood still, he stomped his left foot heavily on the ground, creating a pit. Then, he shot toward Fang Qingshan like a cannonball. While he was in midair, he attacked from above like a roaming dragon. He sent out a palm strike like a divine dragon stretching out its claws. Facing Qiao Feng's dragon soars in the sky, Fang Qingshan circulated his inner force, splitting it into 30% yang and 70% yin. When he sent out his palm strike, it felt like he was being roasted in a furnace. However, at this moment, it became a cold current. Ice crystals appeared in the air within a small area. Spring snow, yin and yang transformed, combining hardness and softness. Qiao Feng was caught off guard by Fang Qingshan's move, causing Soaring Dragon to return empty-handed. However, Qiao Feng was not discouraged. At their level, if they wanted to win with just one move or two, they would have to wait for hundreds of moves. After his first move failed, Qiao Feng used his palm strike again. He flipped in the air and landed lightly on the ground. As for Fang Qingshan, he only swayed a little and stood where he was. His feet sank 3 feet into the ground. The two of them looked at each other and saw regret in each other's eyes. Awesome! Again! The two of them shouted at the same time, like the roar of a dragon or the cry of a crane in the 9 heavens. Qiao Feng walked like a dragon or a tiger. Although his movements looked rough, he moved freely and was as fast as lightning. Fang Qingshan used the subtle steps. His body moved as fast as a duck, drifting like a god. His movements were unpredictable, as if he was in danger or at ease. It was difficult to advance and difficult to stop. On one side, the roar of a dragon rang out fiercely and fiercely. The more he fought, the stronger he became. On the other side, yin and yang alternated, combining hardness and softness. The more he fought, the stronger he became. Bang! 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 For a moment, there was only the sound of palms clashing. The two of them moved like ghosts. Sometimes they were in the east, sometimes they were in the west, sometimes they were up, and sometimes they were down. In a short period of time, the two of them had fought more than 10 rounds, which dazzled the onlookers. Some of the weaker martial artists even felt dizzy and couldn't breathe. The only one who could keep up with Fang Qingshan and Jiumaji was naturally Jiumaji. In his opinion, the battle between the two was a perfect live lesson. It was brilliant, and he was eager to try it out. Alas, what a pity! However, when he thought of the life-death notes in his body, which meant that he would lose all of his martial arts after following Fang Qingshan to the beating drum mountain, Jiumaji's eyes, which were shining a moment ago, suddenly dimmed. Chapter 48. The exchange of moves between experts was a rare visual feast. However, the situation within was extremely dangerous. They have met their match, and the general has met his talent. It was easy for them to get serious. This wasn't because there was any conflict between them, but because it was hard to find a good friend and a good opponent. Once they started fighting, they would be excited and would naturally not hold back. Holding back was not only a sign of disrespect to the opponent, but it was also because the fight between experts required full concentration. If you held back and the opponent went all out, you would be in danger. At the level of Qiao Feng and Fang Qingshan, although they had internal energy to protect their bodies, and some even cultivated the dragon-elephant prajna art or the indestructible body of Vajra, they would still be heavily injured if they took a blow from their opponent. In the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, Kong Jian's cultivation was obvious, and he also cultivated the indestructible body of Vajra. However, after taking a few punches from Xie Sun, his internal organs were ruptured and he died. Therefore, Qiao Feng and Kong Jian didn't hold back in their fight. Qiao Feng, regardless of his personality or martial arts, was the kind of person who would become stronger when facing a strong opponent, and the more he fought, the braver he became. The 18 dragon subduing palms was the world's #1 yang palm technique, and in his hands, it was even more powerful. The 18 dragon subduing palms was originally the world's #1 yang palm technique, and in his hands, it was even more powerful. As for Fang Qingshan, apart from his internal energy, he was slightly weaker than Qiao Feng. In this aspect, regardless of fighting experience, proficiency in moves, or purity of internal energy, he was inferior to Qiao Feng. However, The 6 yang palms of Heaven Mountain that he learned was a combination of hardness and softness, and yin and yang coexisted. As for the Taiji fist, it was a secret technique that used softness to overcome hardness. The 18 dragon subduing palms and the Taiji fist were like a spear and a shield. Even though Fang Qingshan's attainments in the Taiji fist couldn't compare to Qiao Feng's comprehension of the 18 dragon subduing palms, when combined with his outrageously thick inner energy, it just happened to make up for his own shortcomings. Qiao Feng was proficient in one skill, and Fang Qingshan was proficient in one skill. Fang Qingshan had only learned the Heavenly Mountain 6 Suns palm for about half a year. Although he was talented and had Wu Yizi and Wu Xingyun's guidance, his sparring was limited to Li Qiushui and Jiumaji. Although he had inner force, it was not as good as Qiao Feng's dozens of years of practice. Thus, after executing the Tianshan 6 solar palms twice, and Qiao Feng was almost able to figure out his moves, Fang Qingshan decisively swung his hands and switched to the white crane spreads its wings. Qiao Feng could not help but frown when he saw Fang Qingshan suddenly changing his fighting style. Looking at Fang Qingshan standing there loosely as if there were many flaws, Qiao Feng felt that no matter which direction he attacked from, he would fall into Fang Qingshan's trap. The flaws would instantly become a trap. If it was another person, they would definitely be cautious and indecisive, probing back and forth. However, Qiao Feng was different. He walked the path of strength to defeat 10. No matter what kind of move or trap it was, as long as he struck it with his palm, it would naturally vanish into thin air. Sure enough, after a slight hesitation, Qiao Feng took a step forward and pushed both of his palms forward. It was the extremely powerful move of the 18 dragon subduing palms, shocking 100 li. As Qiao Feng moved, Fang Qingshan moved as well. His hands formed a circle in the style of Tai Chi, and he quickly moved them in a mysterious arc. Although the force of the 18 dragon subduing palms was strong and fierce, once it fell into the Taiji circle, it was like falling into a swamp. The force was divided into 2 into 4 into 8. It was either transferred, broken down, or counterattacked. In a breath's time, it disappeared without a trace. The Taiji fist was not a unique skill that could only be beaten passively. It only paid attention to striking after the enemy. If the enemy didn't move, I wouldn't move. If the enemy moved, I would move first. After dissolving the fierce internal force of the 18 dragon subduing palms, Fang Qingshan took a step forward and put his hand on Qiao Feng's wrist. With a pull and pull, he wanted to throw Qiao Feng out. What kind of person was Qiao Feng? Although he suddenly faced it, he was calm in the face of danger. He lowered his feet and used the 1,000-kilogram fall, iron lock traversing river. His arms shook, and a strong and fierce force dissolved the lingering force of Fang Qingshan's Taiji fist. Good. Qiao Feng was delighted to see his opponent. He took a deep breath, and with a whoosh, his left palm stretched forward and his right palm suddenly passed under his left palm. It was as if he was leaping into an abyss. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan did not meet force with force. He swung his hands, embraced the Taiji circle, and continued to draw circles in front of him. A large circle covered a small circle, a straight circle covered a slanted circle, and a flat circle covered a vertical circle. One after another, the Taiji circles danced out from Fang Qingshan's hands. Every move was executed smoothly, like flowing water, and it was incomparably elegant. Chi-chi, a burst of shattering sound rang out. Qiao Feng's palm force fell into Fang Qingshan's Taiji circle, and both disappeared. After receiving Qiao Feng's palm strike, Fang Qingshan slightly raised his arm again, as if he was waving his long sleeve. For a moment, thunder and lightning sounded, and the air seemed to explode. Although the Taiji fist was a unique skill that used softness to overcome hardness, it did not mean that it did not have a strong and fierce attack. This single whip of Fang Qingshan's was swung out with a paw, and it was so strong and fierce that it was not the slightest bit inferior to the 18 dragon subduing palms, and it was terrifying. What a great ultimate skill that combines hardness and softness, and controls the opponent after striking. Although Qiao Feng had only exchanged 2 moves with Fang Qingshan, with his experience, he naturally understood the true essence of the Taiji fist, and he could not help but sigh with emotion. Although he said that the movements of his hands did not slow down in the slightest. With a long whistle, his left palm exerted a circular force, and his right palm straightened, using the move Seeing the Dragon in the Sky. This was the first time he used a defensive move, and he laid a strong wall between himself and Fang Qingshan. If the enemy came, he would block it, and if the enemy didn't arrive, he would vanish without a trace. This was not because Qiao Feng was afraid of Fang Qingshan, but because he knew that if he continued to fight like this, it would be of no use at all. In the end, he would only be able to win by purely relying on his inner force, and Fang Qingshan's inner force was unreasonably strong. If he did not change, he might really be dragged down in the end. Therefore, after receiving Fang Qingshan's single whip, Qiao Feng took a deep breath and used the 18 dragon subduing palms. The proud dragon repents, flying dragon in the sky, seeing the dragon in the sky, hidden dragon doesn't use, shocking 100 li, or leaping into the abyss, divine dragon swings its tail, crossing the great river, dense clouds don't rain, and so on. 18 moves were used one after another. The more he attacked, the faster he became, and the more powerful the moves became. The 18 dragon subduing palms was a unique skill that focused on gravity, not on the moves and not on the moves. Not only was it hard and fierce, but it could also accumulate power. One move after another, continuous and endless, like a surging river. Once the momentum was achieved, it would be like a torrential flood, unstoppable. Qiao Feng knew that although the 18 dragon subduing palms was hard and fierce, Fang Qingshan's Taiji fist was also as good as water. This was a comparison between a spear and a shield, especially when the gap between the two was not big. Wanting to rely on one move at a time to break the opponent's defense was simply wishful thinking. Therefore, he decided to fight speed with speed, accumulating power, only for the last move to decide the universe. Chapter 49. Naturally, Fang Qingshan knew what Qiao Feng was planning. However, he could not do anything about it. Tai Chi was about striking after the enemy had struck, attacking while defending. If Xiaochen wanted to interrupt Qiao Feng's rhythm, he would definitely have to attack first. Not to mention whether this would work, this would disrupt his own rhythm, and his defense would collapse on its own. Thus, what Fang Qingshan could do now was to use stillness to deal with the myriad changes, bringing out the greatest might of Tai Chi to resist Qiao Feng's attack. For a moment, the two's auras surged and they focused their minds. Qiao Feng was like a primeval heavenly dragon, dignified and ferocious, mysterious and elusive, and the aura on his body grew stronger with every passing moment. As for Fang Qingshan, he was like a boulder in the river. The boulder in the river did not move, and he was also like a steep cliff, unyielding. On the other hand, Xiaochen was like a dragon traversing the 4 seas, its roar shocking the sky. His palm energy seemed to stir up wind and waves, moving clouds and bringing rain. When he sent out his palm strike, it seemed like the power of the 4 seas flowed in reverse. On the other hand, Fang Qingshan's eyes drooped as if he was living in his own world. He stood on the yin and yang stance and embraced Tai Chi. His hands drew circles in front of him at a moderate speed. A large circle covered a small circle, a flat circle covered a vertical circle, and a slanted circle covered a regular circle. They were all interlocked, growing and multiplying endlessly. For a moment, a Tai Chi ball stood in the center of the battlefield, as if it had never moved. A divine dragon moved around it, one fast and one slow, one still and one moving, one hard and one soft. It was as fast as lightning, making it hard for others to see its movements clearly. It was as slow as a tortoise, calm and unhurried. It was hard and fierce, earth-shattering and heaven-shaking. It focused on softness and was as kind as water. His inner energy exploded, causing grass and trees to fly and dust to fly. The bystanders were caught in the crossfire of the city gates, and caught in the crossfire. Even so, the crowd did not change their minds. They watched intently, even wanting to get closer to enjoy the fight between the two. They had placed their hopes on Fang Qingshan, wanting him to help them take down Xiao Feng and avenge their humiliation. It was also because the fight between the two was a rare opportunity for the crowd. Both Fang Qingshan and Yi Zichen stood at the top of the pyramid in Jianghu, be it in terms of their skills or the martial arts they displayed. The fight between the two was like a live lesson. As long as one was able to comprehend some principles from it, they would be able to benefit immensely. So, even if they did not retreat in time and were injured by the aftershock, they would still vomit blood and fall to the ground. As long as they could hold on, they would be able to watch the fight. On the battlefield, in the blink of an eye, the 18 dragon subduing palms had been executed by Xiao Feng. As his iron palms danced about, it seemed like numerous divine dragons were whistling out, simple, powerful, firm, and matchlessly ferocious, and his imposing aura had already been accumulated to its peak. Xiao Feng executed the 18 dragon subduing palms in the blink of an eye. As Xiao Feng swung his iron palms, it was as if there were divine dragons roaring out. His aura had already reached its peak. Waving his hands, they were either yin or yang, or as heavy as a mountain, or as light as a feather. All of them were perfectly fused together as one. His entire body seemed to be wrapped in a black and white Tai Chi ball formed by inner force. It seemed to be filled with openings, but just like Tai Chi, it had an unparalleled defense, leaving no room for attack. Break! At a certain moment, Xiao Feng roared and executed the final palm of the 18 dragon subduing palms. His essence, Qi, and spirit were all gathered together. This was Xiao Feng's strongest palm strike. It could be said to be the culmination of his blood. At this moment, Fang Qingshan suddenly opened his eyes. If the enemy does not move, I will not move. If the enemy moves, I will move first. Just as Xiao Feng struck out his last palm, he also displayed the power of Taiji Fist to its greatest extent. Black and white chi surged out, turning into vortexes, circles, and Taiji Fists. Countless strange forces began to spread, and Xiao Feng felt like he was trapped in an inescapable net. Bang! It was earth-shattering. With a loud noise, the dragon subduing palms collided with the Taiji Fist, and the sound of sizzling could be heard endlessly. Seeing that the final result was about to come out, no matter what kind of thoughts everyone had, they were all staring at the two of them. Ka ka ka! At this moment, there was a sound of tearing silk, and a Bai and the others' faces suddenly changed. Cracks suddenly appeared on the Taiji ball, which was originally unparalleled in defense, and like water ripples, they spread out layer by layer. Boom! In a breath's time, the Tai Chi ball was broken, and Xiao Feng's palm force did not slow down as it slammed into Fang Qingshan's chest. Fang Qingshan was like a kite with a broken string, thrown high up and smashed into the wall of virtuous gathering manner. Young master, martial uncle. Seeing this scene, Abai and others were shocked. They hurriedly ran over and helped Fang Qingshan up, looking worried. I'm fine. Fang Qingshan waved his hand. He didn't suffer much damage. Xiao Feng's last palm was unstoppable like a flood. Although it was powerful, Fang Qingshan's Taiji Fist was not a vegetarian. Although his attainments in Taiji Fist might not be as deep as Xiao Feng's 18 dragon subduing palms, but with his vigorous internal force, if it wasn't for Xiao Feng, even Li Qiushui and others wouldn't be able to break it so easily. Although Xiao Feng's palm broke through the defense, the power was also reduced by 70%, and the remaining 30% was resisted by the Dragon Elephant Prajna art, and there was also the Dark North True Chi automatically protecting the body, so the damage that really fell on the body was not much. Seeing Fang Qingshan stand up, if it wasn't for the blood at the corner of his mouth and his pale face, people would think that he was fine. Abai and others were relieved, and so was Xiao Feng. Not only did Fang Qingshan stand up for justice, but the two were also evenly matched and appreciated each other. If they didn't hold back and seriously injured him, they would really feel a little guilty. Only Jiumaji sighed secretly. Because of the hidden danger of the internal force and the control of the life and death talisman, he was very happy as long as he could see Fang Qingshan being defeated. Leader Qiao really lives up to his reputation, but Qingshan lost. Fang Qingshan said with a smile, "Young Master Qingshan, you are being too modest. Although I have broken through your defense, you have only suffered a minor injury. If we were to fight, it would be hard to say who would emerge victorious." Xiao Feng shook his head and then said, "I am no longer the leader of the beggar gang, so let's forget about what Leader Qiao said. If young Master Qingshan doesn't mind, you can call me Xiao Feng. In that case, I will call you Brother Xiao, and you don't need to call me Young Master. Just call me Qingshan or Brother Feng if you like," Feng Qingshan said. "Brother Feng," Xiao Feng readily accepted. "Ah, ha ha ha." The two of them looked at each other and burst into laughter. 1,000 cups of wine was too little when they met each other, and half a sentence was too much when they didn't get along. The two of them didn't get to know each other through fighting, and as they chatted, they became even more appreciative of each other. "Brother Xiao, after fighting for so long, you must have suffered a bit. Let's go. I will treat you to a drink." Fang Qingshan invited. "As you wish, please." Xiao Feng didn't refuse. Therefore, while everyone looked at each other, Xiao Feng and Fang Qingshan turned around and left. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.